Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the CBLOL English broadcast. Your favorite, or at the very least, my favorite place to be in RMC. Given the amount of time that I've seen you here, it seems like we've got that in common.
Yep, I mean, it's Friday, Dia. It's not even the regular weekend. We're still trying to make time in our regular weekday to be here because 4 straight days, double the amount of CBLOL, Dia. As much as work is calling on us, like we want more of this.
It is true. For all of you tuning in right now, first of all, thank you. We know that it is a weekday, and we know that you will probably be tuning in on Monday as well, because if you're here now, what's to stop you? I do want to quickly throw out, we are doing the first series today. We will not be doing the second, because we have jobs and time zones, and by the time we finish this series, it's going to be like 2 a.m. my time, and I don't want to get murdered by my family. So... first series it's going to be, and with that in mind, RMC, we will likely be doing that on Friday as well. TBD, we will likely be doing that, or sorry, on Monday as well. TBD. Keep your eyes on our Twitter, or just tune in here at the start, and we will always update you. However, with this series in mind, let's talk about what we've got coming up first. Vivocade and Fluxu as our first, and actually, I guess, for us, final matchup of the day. But you'll get to see it on CBLOL.
Yeah, to kick off the Super Week, we get ourselves Fluxu versus VKS. And it's sort of an interesting situation right now. VKS tied second with Loud in the league with 2 series wins and 4 game wins, 1 game loss. Fluxu, on the other hand, currently sat at 1-1 for series score, 2 wins, 2 losses in terms of games. So you can see they're pretty close in the standings right now. Fluxu tied 5th with, actually no, Seoul 5th, pardon me, and then Vivocade Stars tied 2nd. But Dia, it's a little bit more complex than that, because while the VKS fans are rejoicing, we've got to remember who they faced. They faced a Red who imploded right after their match in week 1, and then they faced a Furia where Tatu had a 1 series suspension in week 2. So while VKS has been looking phenomenal, they've been looking great. That's not quite right. Those Grandes should be in first place instead of Vivocade Stars there on our current standings. I could have sworn it was right earlier, but as much as Vivocade Stars have been doing phenomenally well for themselves and they look great on the Rift, they have been running to teams with internal issues. Fluxu, on the other hand, they're a little bit more hit or miss. I mean, they were looking like the dark horse. They won week 1, dominated it even against Aviaton, but then they crumbled against Loud in week 2. So this almost feels like a test for both teams. One, is Fluxu really the dark horse they are supposed to be? And 2, how does Cade actually match up in the Fluxu? If they lose here, then VKS drops from tied 2nd with Loud to, what, potentially 4th? Because Loud beat Fluxu, no problem.
Yeah, I mean, we're still so early in the split that we're making early judgments about these teams because we've seen them play. We have kind of an idea of what to expect. But at the same time, at least in Split 2, those expectations on a large scale, on a league, but I want to say even looking towards playoffs, like those expectations are still being set, especially as players come back from various amounts of holiday to join in with the CBLOL in our now best of 3s. So I'm not giving any huge copium bucks out here. I think for both of these teams, especially for this first 2 matchup, we do have a pretty good idea of what they look like. Not just their strengths, and like considering that especially Vivocade are looking quite good right now. I think we know where they are successful, and we have a pretty good idea of where they might be weak later in the season. With all CBLOL teams, it's a matter of who's actually able to punish that, because CBLOL is notoriously unpredictable and also notoriously bad at catching up to teams who have obvious weaknesses but are just on a hot streak.
And then we get the random teams like Loud, which is our playoff teams. And you could argue Fluxu might even be in that category when we look at what they did in Split 1, where they struggled during the regular season, but at the end of the season made a deep run. Now, VKS, though, I think they are night and day, and that's why recency bias is such a big thing right now, because VKS were lost AF in Split 1. Like, when under CL towards the end, it just looked like they're struggling. This split under Smalley, they've made a complete 180, and they're looking fantastic. We're right into pick and bans with VKS getting first pick, and they have banned Syndra, not Cassiopeia, notably, and also, I was going to say Lock is open, but Fluxu takes out Lock.
Yeah, does this mean that we actually get something like a Cass first pick is a question that I have for VKS. I mean, there are a lot of nice AP carries still left up, neither of which have been hovered. In fact, 2 things that are laughable lock-ins, but that's how we do it in the CBLOL. As it is, with VKS and how they've been looking recently, they do, as is the meta, find a lot of favor with with duelist junglers, and it is no surprise to me, and I'm so happy I get to say this, that their first pick is the Shakira of League of Legends.
Context for that statement. Dia, I, and Rose were looking at some of the models earlier. Rose is trialing some stuff. Hopefully that comes out maybe later this week or next week. But yeah,
that's NDA.
Lee Sin's models has some amazing hits. Now there we go, the Cassiopeia that we were expecting for first pick. Fluxu going to pick that one up. Skarner a little bit more of a surprise. I believe it's the first Skarner of the split here in Brazil. But a very tanky jungler to come through, something that can give a bit more beef, and I suspect that signals that Fluxu want to give a bit more carry power to Zothby on the top side. He's been playing only Jason Cassante so far. I suspect this will not be a Cassante game.
Yeah, I mean, there is certainly there is certainly a lot of damage that now needs to be picked up by the side of Fluxu, and. Sorry, I'm like completely thrown off by the hostage situation that we've had today on broadcast. With the Skarner being locked in, the answer will be two pretty generically powerful picks, notably not an AP carry because Orianna is so strong in the mid lane, but Ezreal does serve and has always served sort of the same role as you see AP carries do right now. Shove in the lane, don't really interact with your opponent, play safe, and let your support roam, which honestly makes Camille a very attractive option. I haven't seen that pop up yet.
Yeah, it can be a little bit dangerous to Cassiopeia with the ability to root down Ezreal if he ever gets caught in that range. Definitely punish, but Arcane Shift is pretty fast. We do see the Jace come through for Zothby as expected when we saw the Skarner. There's the sort of carry style champion you can pick into the top lane, but notably it's a blind pick. So VKS, it was R3, or I guess second pick 3. We can't say red 3 anymore. So there is a chance for you to ban away the counters, and we're seeing that with the Olaf and Yorick. But I feel like with the Lee Sin, if you just pick another carry on the top side, the Lee Sin can apply enough pressure to shut down that Jace quite easily.
You have to imagine that VKS did see the top side strength coming, though, because of the Skarner pick that you mentioned earlier. And for me, this puts VKS in a much better position draft-wise. You've already got the first pick, Lee Sin, which I think is incredibly powerful right now. The world thinks is incredibly powerful right now. They would say the same thing of Orianna, and now you've got the opportunity to counter-pick Jace, who, and I don't think this is a global opinion, is extremely counterable. I really don't like Jace, and it's not just because I don't like Jace thematically, because Leona, as an example, I hate Leona as a champion, but I understand that she's good. Jace, I don't like, and I think he's terrible.
Sure, and if you want to hear more about Dia's thoughts on that, there's this week's episode of Gringos Liberados, in which Dia goes a little bit deeper into his dislike of that particular champion. It's not even the BR Jace, by the way. Like, Dia just hates Jace in general.
It's true, all around the world.
Speaking of things you hate, though, Leona being hovered by VKS is an answer to the Jhin we see come through from Fluxu. And Jhin, I'm liking the pick right here, right now. I mean, if it's a tank in the top lane to answer Jace, sure, it goes composition well into the Jhin, but it will struggle in the early game. If you don't pick a tank in the top lane for VKS, then the Jin's going to have relevance all game long, and if anything, can scale up to be an absolute monster as he gets more crit. And well, yeah, that's definitely not a tank. I would be shocked if that's what we see locked in. But are they going to go with the Rumble? I mean, it would fit. You've got the Orianna, you've got the Leona, the big AoE CC wombo combo is there. No, Cassante. So in a way, pinching Zothby a little bit.
Yeah, I mean the Rumble actually looked pretty. The Rumble actually looked pretty convincing to me, especially because even though he is not a tank, he does work really well into somebody like Jhin, and because he is able to counter the immobility of that champion. On the other end of this, Fluxu still looking for the response. I am so sorry, guys. My cat has decided to launch an assault on my feet right now, and I don't know what I've done to deserve it. With the Nautilus lock-in, I mean, Fluxu's composition does look pretty strong all around, especially because they've got this really nice front to back that they can set up a lot of damage coming from long range with the Jace and the Jhin as well. But I can't help but feel like VKS got the slightly better end of this RMC.
Yeah, I think both compositions they have their strengths. I don't think I'm not walking away from this draft feeling like either team has really won the draft comprehensively. I do think both teams are fairly competitive with it, and it will come down to hands, which is going to be interesting because from what we've seen from VKS, they've actually been winning a lot of their individual matchups, but they're actually not one of the best early game teams, which is kind of weird when you think about the fact that their individual players are doing well. They seem to be dropping the ball on objectives, and statistically speaking, actually, Fluxu is one of the best teams at objectives right now. They're the second best Dragon team in the league. They're the best Void Grub team in the league, and they're the best Herald team in the league. So there is a world in which Fluxu kind of blows the game out early. They don't really have the champions for that early game, though, because the Lee Sin is on the other side. So it's a very odd situation we find ourselves in. And I suspect it might just come down to, can Dasamis specifically really take control on the Lee Sin? Historically, he has been able to. And compositionally, he is being put in a position where he might have to.
I am wondering as well, you know, if we feel like both these drafts are pretty even, where is the difference between them when you're talking about neutral objectives? That's something that Fluxu especially can hope to lean on if they have any points of strength specifically around early neutrals. Jace naturally should have a lot of success in the lane if Skarner's able to pay a little bit of attention. Then maybe we get Cassiopeia roaming up as well, and that can give you access to something like Void Grubs. But when looking down at Ezreal, Leona versus Jhin Nautilus, I don't see a clear advantage when it comes to something like Dragons, and that could be a place where, especially with the Lee Sin, who is a significantly better duelist in the early game, where we could see VKS look to deconstruct some of Fluxu's clear seasonal advantages around these neutrals.
And speaking of this bot side as well, it's going to be rather... I hope it's rather interesting and not very boring, because unfortunately both Bao and Jeskla so far have not been the focus of their teams. They're not your sort of traditional Brazilian AD carries. Heck, they're not Brazilian at all. Bao is Korean and Jeskla is Swedish, if I recall correctly, same as Smallwood. So they play more for team fights, and that makes this bot lane, I think, a lot less explosive than it otherwise might be with a champion like Jhin. A lot of times Jhin being able to apply a bunch of pressure in lane is one of the big reasons why you pick him.
Started off pretty defensively, to be honest. Has Bao, making sure that it is not going to be too easy to burst down a Jhin and punish him early. Both junglers starting on opposite sides, with Dasamis over on the blue and Peach starting bot side on his own to hopefully make his way up towards top lane. Something that, if you are going to pick Jace, you should be doing.
Yeah, because if Jace falls behind, it gets kind of tough for him. And I'm wondering if the Dasamis starting on his top side might go for sort of a sneaky level 2 gank. It's possible, but it does mess up the jungle pathing quite badly. So for now, it looks like the Dasamis at least not thinking about that, kind of happy to leave Zekis on his own. With the Cassante, even if you lose out early, it's not the end of the road. Really, once you get the sort of all out at level 6, then you get a lot more threat onto the Jace, and that's really what I'm worried about. Bot side, we are seeing them scrap a lot. Normally, I'd favor the Leona in these early fights as a support, but the difference between a Jhin and a Ezreal is really making itself felt right now, with Jhin just hitting that much harder.
Tank Jhin, but still Jhin. You know, that guy is hard to burst down, but especially early game, with his passive, he is going to do a lot of damage. Now, with the bot lane still having been successfully shoved in, despite the poor trade, there is an advantage in the bot side for Dasamis should he want to go for the scuttle or even try and transition that into a mid lane, as Cody is pushed up pretty darn far and VKS seem to have priority, if not be going even everywhere else.
Yeah, the lanes have been pretty steady for now. Dasamis going kind of just for that full clear, and both mid laners actually just backing off at this time. I wonder if we're going to see early tiers come through from both of them. I feel like for Cassiopeia, definitely. With the Orianna, yeah, okay, Darksteel instead. And to me, that kind of spells that maybe we are going to see Dasamis camp out the mid lane a little bit. It does feel like a lot of VKS's success here in Split 2 so far in the first 2 weeks has come from Dasamis and Miru working together, something that was painfully missing for much of this year so far.
Maybe they'll be able to sync up on some plays, especially around the top side as well. I mean, if VKS are going to get proactive, it's also where you want to be. Ignoring this Cassante is fine, is doable, but you also know that Jace is going to be trying to get every inch of an advantage out of the early game that he can. As Miru starts just clearing away a little bit of the wave in mid lane, he's keeping this kept really close to the center, and that's so VKS can go for a gank like this.
Oh,
Scamber
what?
Gonna flash forward for the stun, but Momoshi does the same, not quite hooking Scamber underneath the tower. Scamber should still be able to survive, but with no flash, he's not quite able to make it out, and the rest of VKS, not scary enough to make it happen. First blood goes to Fluxu, goes to Cody at 3 minutes.
No flash and the root coming through. That was insanely telegraphed from VKS, and props to Fluxu for recognizing that. You can see all the pings coming down really, really early from them, and Mochi's like, guys, bot's missing. I'm on my way, just stay alive. But the collapse backwards, really well planned, and I feel like VKS... The call to go for the play, that's fine, but they really doubled down on it, and that came back to bite them. So, again, you can see the pings coming down right now. They knew this was going to happen. I can't believe that Zenith Blade landed. But at the moment it kind of landed, I think they were just trying to disengage. But that's the thing with Leona, right? You're in... Same with Nautilus. You're not really getting back out from that sort of situation. And really well played from Fluxus as well to make sure they peeled off and got the gold where it needed to. Not onto Peach, where you've got a tank, not onto Mochi, where you're a tank, but onto Cody, who's going to be a carry later on this game.
And that investment, well, it's not, say, terrible for somebody like Jeskla. It doesn't change the game for Zekas, even. It is going to make mid lane and having presence for Miru a lot harder. Being able to shove in the wave is something that Orianna is always going to be able to do, but now Cody can step up with that much more confidence. Confidence, perhaps equivalent to that which Jeskla gives us in the bot lane, defending the pink ward as I wish more of my own AD carries did.
And you can see Cody was roaming down as well. So defending that pink ward actually has a lot of benefits as well. It's not so much just, oh, we have safety in our lane, but it also dissuades what should have been a gank coming through from Cody. Now, talking about Cody a little bit, yeah. Notably, he started with Boots of Swiftness, actually not the tier that I expected with the Cassiopeia. So he might have a bit of limited sort of mana to come through. Yep, that is true. It's gold that you're kind of keeping up. Unfortunately, will not matter.
I'm noticing that it is alive. Even if Scamber may not be, a little bit more CC to still to land, and Momochi with the auto should have secured this kill onto Scamber. Okay. Another one actually going to Cody, who arrives just in time, and finally, a 75 gold investment will fall. The most tragic thing I've seen.
Mirio trying to turn the tides, though, Bao.
Oh, that was not working. Momochi, however, will die, and that is a consolation prize that VKS will be happy for. Peach peeled off the dragon that he was thinking about just to come down to the bot lane, where Bao picks up the kill onto Jeskla. Desamis is going to be finished off by Cody underneath the tower, and a 3-kill Cassiopeia slithers away from the lane. We have gone from bad to worse. 3 minutes first blood, 6.5 minutes. He's got 3 kills. Cody might just be ending the game at 10.
Yeah, and tell you what, it's not Cody who needs tiers. It's Miru who's stacking them right now. Like, it's VKS as a whole that's stacking those tiers. And for this felt like a bit of a sunk cost fallacy, right? We've already called down Miru. We need to make something happen. Miru has a Dark Seal, but Bao perfectly timed flash to dodge on the Shockwave. And at that point, VKS is just up a creek with no paddle. They have multiple members who don't have any more escape abilities available. Jessica's really low from the first gank. Like, they just, once again, overcommitted. And props to Fuxu for knowing they can keep going. Miru?
These miasmas have been gorgeous as well. Miru kind of messed up by that one, and the unending roams from Momochi are truly unlocked at this point. Bao is completely self-sufficient in the bot lane, and Momochi is... I couldn't come up with a Spider-Man joke in time, but just pretend that I did, because the movie's out, it's culturally relevant. I haven't seen it.
I actually don't know what the new movie's called. I was thinking like something about On His Way Home, but that was the last one, which is...
I think it's No Way Home, or am I stupid?
No Way Home?
I'm looking it up. New Spider-Man movie.
Fair enough. Momochi doesn't want to go home right now. He's kind of everywhere, as you said. And it's funny because we talked about in draft the fact that Jeskla picked the Ezreal, signaling to us that it was Scamber who wanted to roam. Whereas with the Jhin, sometimes you do want to sit in lane a little bit because there is kill threat with that Jhin, especially when you hit level 6. But it's been Momochi who's been roaming, I feel like, that much harder, that much more effectively compared to Scamber.
Speaking of level 6... While Scamber may not have it, Desamis certainly does, and they love to revisit this mid lane. They'd love to shut down the Cassiopeia, but there's not an angle. Cody is playing really well up towards the top side where he has not just vision, but a jungler who's starting the grubs. So while we're likely to trade grubs for dragon right now, the advantage still firmly lies with Fluxu and Cody, who is piloting it remarkably.
Okay, we mentioned before that Fluxu will top the table when it comes to the Void Grubs, and I kind of like the idea of taking those Void Grubs a little bit more when you've got the Jace, when you've got the champion who can pressure these turrets in an isolated lane a little bit better. And also when you've got the Jhin for Bao that is kind of starting to run away a little bit on the bad side, getting to push in and maybe get a bit more chip damage right now.
What do we think? What do we think of top lane right now? I mean, I because I am a Jace hater, I'm not actually allowed to give opinions on this because they're blinded by pure rage. But Zothvi's sitting at a 5 CS lead. Cody actually just made the first roam up there. It's the first time that we've seen anybody look at top lane so far. At this stage of the game, can we say confidently that Jace is getting at least good value?
No, I cannot say that in any good conscience right now. It is a bit unfortunate. You can see that when Zekis gets in there, he's able to trade more effectively. Also, early on in the game, defensive stats are a lot cheaper and more efficient to get. So seeing the armor that Zekis is starting to stack, I am concerned that Zothvi's window is starting to close in terms of the 1v1. And Peach has not really been giving him time of day. Instead, Miryu pressured once again, but Momochi not able to land the flash hook.
See, that was the flash that I was worried would happen when Scamber went to the mid lane, and I think it's now the flash that VKS wish happened to Scamber when he went to the mid lane. If the Zenith Blade had missed, this game, I think, would look a lot different. But Cody's transitioning that back up to the top side again, and Zekis is in perfect position for a nice miasma. Still not going to go down, but that's enough damage that Zothvi gets a little more alone time with the tower, and you know what they say, if Jace can't do it alone, bring a friend.
Sure. That's true of most champions. If you can't do it alone, bring a friend. Unless they're way too fed, in which don't, because you're going to feed them twice over. But yeah, Cody doing a ton of work. Rod of Ages completed, so no tier for this Cassiopeia whatsoever, kind of accelerated. And Cody's been ganking harder than Peach into the lanes right now. How many times have we seen Cody slither down to bot lane, slither up to top lane? And those early leads, the early gold he picked up, he's not just hoarding it himself to be the solo carry. He's spreading the joy a bit, helping out. Sure, Zekis doesn't die in the top side, but he is forced to back off, use teleport, and buy Zothvi a little bit more breathing room to try and make something happen. I'd love to see a revisit from Peach or Cody up to the top side when Zekis doesn't have teleport to try and get Zothvi a significant, a meaningful lead.
All out over the wall. This could be Zothvi in trouble. Flash still available for him and for Zekis, but with the Q3 going a little wide, Zothvi with a well-timed flash, he gets away from Zekis. Like you said, that window has not just closed, it has been cemented shut. Zekis tough to kill, and he'll go for you.
And I think the question earlier was, well, has Zothvi made good use of his time? No. Is he okay? Now? No. Now it becomes a problem.
Another W for Jace haters around the world.
But by the way, when they showed clips of the teams coming out their rooms earlier, Zekis was like kind of walking in like a boxer, champion boxer with his boys backing him up. And right now it's set up to look like a bit of a slugfest in that top side. And I think Zekis is feeling very comfortable with how that matchup goes. And that kind of makes me think about the rest of VKS right now. Where else are they potentially getting pressure? Miryu is actually doing well in the mid lane, has got a small CS lead for all the times Cody has roamed. And Jessica is still kind of staying even. Scamber eating the hook.
I'd really like to see Jeskla get a little bit more work done as Scamber is forced to flash. Unfortunately, now will not be the time to do it. This Ezreal, who has been perma-shoving all lane, has had priority to the river at every moment, just is not set up to actually do anything because the rest of his team cannot match the rest of Fluxo.
Yeah, and part of me thinking, okay, sure, Jessica and Scamber are getting pressure, but Scamber is also dying. It feels like a trap right now to try and lure this bot lane out. Just posturing, he's just aura farming. Like, there was no way he was dying on that, but yeah, he wanted to kind of say, okay, the threat's here, Cody, respect it. Cody gonna go back to lane, no teleport, but should be able to slither right back into lane. Actually, it's a lane swap coming through with Bao and Mochi catching that wave mid.
Huge respect to Cody for saving the flash there. That was a shockwave that easily half a Yordle to the left would have hit, and Cody knew that he had the time to get out of range of that, even though we could tell with Tasamas walking into the mid lane that had that hit, it would have cost him his life. That is restraint from Cody on a really big level that lets him keep his flash up until this dragon that is spawning in 30 seconds. It's the second dragon of the game, but we could easily see them win a fight around it now. Unfortunately, Cody is not here for this one, as Momochi will suffer the repercussions of that. Peach flashing over the wall, but without the Impale to bring two people underneath the tower, will be giving up at least the one kill to VKS. Leaving Cody in the bot lane, it doesn't seem like Fluxo are worried about a dive, but VKS are also positioning like they're ready for one.
Yeah, I think VKS, again, sunk cost fallacy, similar to what we saw on the bot side earlier. They're already up here. They really want to push in on this top side and make something happen, but it is coming at a very high cost. Teleport actually being used by Myriad to try and defend this bot side because of how much they gave up. And props to Zothvi in that situation. That shock blast onto the minion wave was the reason why the dive couldn't go through, because he was able to trim the wave early enough that VKS didn't have minions to start the tank up.
Cody got so much time alone in the bot side, though. I mean, that was... I think... Not just I think. I'm trying to cut that from my vocabulary. That was worth it for Fluxu. Giving up your support's singular life.
Yeah.
And yes, maybe a flash or two in the top lane. But to get your Cassiopeia alone time, alone experience on a tower as well. I mean, Cody's been doing well, but he's been sacrificing a lot to help out the rest of the team, roaming up to the top side. He's actually behind in experience to Miru because of this. Yeah. But his team's now getting to invest back in him.
And the gold differential, of course, it looks the biggest in mid lane, but a lot of that is coming from the plates that Cody was able to get solo gold from on that bot side. Now, Fluxu collapsing together as a team, going on this dragon teleport, almost up for Zothby as well. VKS, I think they're looking for a steal. I don't know if you want to fight, but they're calling for a TP.
Peach is going to smite this. The question is now just can the rest of Fluxu get out? There's been a teleport in. Zekas does have the all out again. That is a huge stun to connect, but an even bigger impale to follow up on it. Fluxu, all the cooldowns aligned, but it is a double kill that Miru walks away with at the end of it.
Okay, 2 for 1. So Fluxu able to secure the dragon, but not able to get away clean. And for VKS, I think this is a big win for them. Yes, it's called Zekas down. Yes, that's going to give Zothby a bunch of plays on the top side, but more importantly, they're kind of able to get gold onto Miru and Jessica, the carries who they needed to find some sort of advantage on to keep the game close, keep it competitive. And for Fluxu, a bit of a check on them as well to say, hey, you're strong, but you haven't run away with the game. And for this, Peach is just a little bit slow to get out. For a second, I got concerned when Cody was able to just instantly evaporate the Samus. But unfortunately, the CC layering was not ideal from them. Peach gets the CC along with the Petrifying Gaze coming through from Cody, so they didn't get to extend the timing. All of it just went down at the same time, and they didn't have quite enough in the tank left after to turn a 4v5. Because again, Zekas teleported, Zothby did not.
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm thinking is, I mean, this is a really good news story for VKS, and we could tell that they were leveraging, as we said, their advantages on Cody to make sure that they were able to have presence through the rest of the map, but there, it really bit them. Not necessarily because Cody was not perfectly ahead. It's fair to leverage this for the rest of the map, but because in this particular case, though we were praising them topside, Fluxu weren't able to pay that back. Taking a 4v5 is doom. And Zothby sitting alone for plates on the top side, I unfortunately just don't think is worth losing a team fight around the dragon, even if it is just a couple kills.
Yeah, we'll have to see if Zothby's actually able to leverage that advantage, just with a couple hundred gold, into something more. For now, though, Fluxu's not going to have to rely on that just yet. Zothby can continue to just supply pressure in a softer way. He's not the hard carry of this team, and Fluxu will instead fall back onto Herald, which should translate into another turret in their pocket. Meanwhile, Zekas trying to do his best Zothby cosplay right now, but he's a Cassante. He's not going to be anywhere near as fast taking turret blades.
Now, Cody gets to back to lane extremely quickly. Now that Cassiopeia can buy boots, we realize why this was outlawed by Riot for so long. It is absolutely ridiculous. But this could be punished. Even this crime against humanity might be able to be shut down. Zekas does have flash, does have ult. But it's going to be Scamber and Desamus who have to finish the job down here. Momochi's around. Numbers disadvantage for Fluxu should this fight break out now.
Yeah, the big problem's the Petrifying Gaze, because it would buy enough time for Peach to show up as well. And the sort of CC chain we're talking about with the Impale and the Petrifying Gaze, as long as you can split them up, it'll do a lot of work in these sort of big fights. Well, 3v3s or bigger, really. So,
yeah,
unfortunately
as we learned, not in 4v5s. Not,
yeah,
not
true.
enough.
Not when you're down a man. And for VKS, you know, they just kind of end up wasting time on that bot side. Ironically, the pink ward actually works against them, because it's one of the reasons why Cody didn't overextend, because he was clearing that. Bay into the mid lane as Herald going to crack this one open, and Fluxu, yeah, sure, they fumbled that bot fight a little bit, but they're by and large actually playing this really clean, and I like how consistent they've been with this Herald with a potential second charge, Shelly, into the bot side.
I think we got it.
Yeah.
And bomba! That is very nice play from Momochi. Being able to pilot Shelly all the way down. They go for the knock-up immediately afterwards, but it doesn't quite work. I respect it, going for the style points. Fluxu get away with 2 towers, and those two actually going to be pretty good setup, considering that we have a dragon in a minute, and they still have their mid and bot lane towers standing. Fluxu with a big advantage when it comes to this objective.
and kind of tripling their gold. They were about 600 gold advantage when they kind of went for that Herald play, and now they're up to about 1,800, pushing 2,000 just a moment ago. So Fluxu, great position. And yeah, when you looked at the predictions coming through from a lot of the Brazilian casters, I think all but one of them said VKS was going to win this. And I get it. The feeling was there. VKS has been on a roll. But this is where there was a bit of hesitation, because statistically, while Fluxu is 1-1, they were top in quite a few of the stats, especially around objectives, whereas VKS, they had really high numbers when it came to team fighting. But that was always the question. You're team fighting against a Red who was literally at the edge of imploding when they played that game, and you were playing against a Furia who had a sub in the jungle because Tatu got a 1-match suspension. So are they really that good? So far this game, they are not quite living up to that second place height.
VKS maybe eating a bit of, I don't think pie is very common, humble brigadeiro. And that is not where they wanted to be coming into this game. It is where they are, unfortunately, at 20 minutes into it. But the game's not over.
Sure.
And VKS's games so far have still gone really well. That hopefully giving them enough confidence to play for the win in this one. Teleport in from Fluxu certainly signals they are playing for the win around this dragon, as this fight will surely determine that objective. Out's going to be the ult from the back line, as Fluxu, buy a little bit of space, buy a little bit more time in this fight. Zekas takes up a lot of it, but ultimately VKS walk away, with the exception of Scamber, higher health from this engagement, and are going to start up the dragon themselves,
I don't know about
the
this one,
rest
Chief.
of Fluxu into them.
This is really scary. Zothby has teleport. Scamber does not. So Zothby is going to teleport right back into this. And Fluxu are going to be able to push VKS out. VKS might be the first to Dragon, but they will be also the first ones to be pushed out.
There's just no ults for VKS, and it puts them in a really awkward position, because Miro without Shockwave is a quarter of the champion that he would be. And you can say the same thing of Desamus without Dragon's Rage. It doesn't work nearly as well, especially into Petrifying Gaze and a fully available depth charge. Fluxu get this dragon for pretty low cost.
Yeah, it goes back a little bit to what we're talking about in draft. Now, I did say that the teams are kind of evenly matched, but looking to do different things. And we talked about how VKS needed to really spring forward, put their best foot forward in the early game, and it hasn't happened. Desam is 0-2-2 right now. Not the start you'd hope that your Lee Sin would be able to find for your lanes. Now that we've hit the mid game, VKS's composition is about that team fight you're talking about, all about that Shockwave specifically. Land it on multiple members, find your way into the backline and do work. Find it onto the carries and do work, onto Zothby, onto Cody, onto Bao. If you don't get 2 out of 3 at least, then it gets a little bit tougher for VKS. Whereas Fluxu, we kind of saw how their composition wants to work. Yes, they've got some good teamfight tools with the Impale and the Petrifying Gaze, but more importantly, they have poke tools that VKS have no answers to. Zothby and Bao are doing a lot of work, and using the Curtain Call as sort of long-range poke to soften up the fight. Want that for them. The fact that they pushed Scamber out right from the get-go forced a 5v4 situation, and the shoe's on the other foot now. It's VKS with the numbers down, and VKS having to back off. So I was really surprised when VKS actually pulled the dragon. I think it was by accident, but that was still additional chip damage when they were down a man.
As we look towards now the Baron, that seems like the obvious objective. And Baron damage from Fluxu was actually quite good. They've got a great tank in Peach. They've got Zothby on Jace, who, despite all my naysaying, is still a champion who does a lot of damage. And then the classic Cassiopeia Baron.
Peach.
So a lot to be afraid of, but not for Momochi, who plays the hero for a moment, hooking in Scamber, who doesn't take a whole lot of damage, but does set up perfectly for Peach to find a double impale. Miru explodes, and Fluxu find themselves a 2-man advantage when they're already in the top side river.
And is this the trigger they need to go on the Baron? Keep in mind, there is still a Lee Sin for VKS, and Lee Sin, one of the best at stealing away objectives. Cody has faked out the Samus, turns the wall.
Oh my god, League of Legends is a horror game! The Miasma comes down to secure the kill, and with their 3rd kill on the board, Fluxu will turn towards the Baron unquestionably. No Lee Sin, no Shakira, no problem.
Yeah, forget all about man-made horror like the backrooms and whatnot. It's the more primal fear of being in the jungle, of having no vision, ironically, for the blind monk there. And really well played from Cody. You saw Desamus throw out that sonic wave into the pit as well. He was looking, okay, are there raptors to give me vision? If somebody's hiding, it's probably in there. But Cody's positioning right round the wall was picture perfect. And Peach's flank, speaking of picture perfect, right here. That flash from, or Zenith Blade, pardon me, from Scamber really backfired. Like, he threw himself right in the way of impale. At least if you didn't get impaled, maybe you can physically body block and look for something, but no, nothing. And you can see right here, the lack of vision from the Samus, the miasma that came down to make sure there was no escape as well. That was just the icing on the cake. And just like that, Fluxu, what could have been a questionable Baron became bait, which becomes a very secure Baron with an extra kill to boot.
I mean, I got what I wanted, which was seeing that play with the vision toggled, getting to experience even a small part of the horror that DeSamus felt when rounding the corner. And now that horror has got to be blooming into a lot more, maybe even a little bit of the lack of confidence that can start to seep in when you are, at this point, behind a Baron, behind in a game that honestly wasn't feeling that bad for VKS up until this point. They might not have been in a commanding position, but when you're a team with a record like VKS's, there's a voice in your head going, we can do this. And now, when a Baron is down, there's a voice in your head going, maybe we think about the next game, and maybe creeping into VKS.
Okay, for shot, I'll use curtain call onto Zekas. He's able and happy to tank that up. Much better sort of target selection or tank selection from VKS so that Scamber doesn't have to eat all of it. I don't think VKS know how to quit, to be fair. I think with Smalley as your coach, this is not a team that is going to go, okay, let's think about next game. They're going to think, okay, we still have a chance. We still have a way to come back in. 5k gold lead for Fluxu, but notably, we haven't seen VKS get that ball delivery system into Fluxu's back line. And besides Peach, there is no real tank for Fluxu right now. Momochi very, very squishy still. And Peach has been going in very aggressively. He's not been staying back there. So there's still a world in which DeSamus, Zekas can take that ball to the back line. If they can find a shockwave, a 5,000 gold lead could be nullified. I'm not saying I expect VKS to win the next fight, but I'd like to see them at least show us the skeletons of how this comp is supposed to work.
It's one of the reasons why Orianna is so highly prized around the world and has been for a very long time. This isn't the first meta that we've seen Orianna be prominent in, and it certainly won't be the last, because when it comes down to it, so much of her power budget is in this ultimate that is pretty low commitment and pretty high impact. Miru doesn't have to, like Azir, throw himself into the front lines to get value out of his ultimate. He doesn't have to be that playmaker. It just takes a misstep from Fluxu, a misstep that they may try and make around this tier 2 as they try and get the most value that they can out of a Baron that just expired.
And unfortunately for Fluxu, they weren't able to find that much aside from that mid-inner turret, so not quite growing the gold gains as much as they'd like to find. But they have been sieging up fairly well. I like the vision setup that they're doing. Whenever they go to the bot side, they make sure they put up very aggressive wards, clear everything out. And VKS, I feel like we talk about them trying to find backline access. I feel like it's more on Zekas finding some sort of TP behind the enemy team, because DeSamus trying to walk in the front with the amount of vision that Fluxu is putting down, that's not something you can reasonably ask of him. Instead, it's Peach once again looking for a flank, looking for Zekas. Impale does not hit.
Normally, I don't like frivolous impales, but in this case, you get a flash out of Zekas for basically nothing. And the turret follows immediately. Now a flashless Zekas on top of a miasma eats a petrifying gaze as well. That guy is going to burn to death, and Cody picks up a double kill in a moment. It may be much later than the 10 minutes that I memingly predicted, but it looks like at around 27. Fluxu are thinking about the end of the game. They've got a big pick. They have certainly got a foothold in this base, and it's up to DeSamus to make this change. With Miru melted already, there is no shockwave coming. There is no big hero play. It's just Cody in your base, tanking the tower, and finally dying for his hubris. The rest of Fluxu, though, with a definite advantage in this fight, don't manage to kill DeSamus, and may yet choose to back away, because without Cassiopeia, you are, you know...
Do we know? I don't think Fluxu knows.
They know. They're running, bro. They get it. They got the note. They maybe got it a few seconds late, but Fluxu know that they're cooked.
Cody
Getting
gives
out of here is...
Yeah. Cody gives and Cody takes away, unfortunately. I got a little bit too hypey. Now, to be fair to Cody, if he did find Jessica, if he did manage to take out the Ezreal, that would have been game right there. But overstepping into turrets, eating that much damage. Props to Jessica again, who very much, I feel like, in the trend of he's reminding me a lot of Morteus when Morteus first made his promotion, very quietly just doing his job. And we get to see this. Keep your eyes on Jessica and his positioning, because on the miasma he should have been dead to rights, but he uses the barrier, walks out, keeps pumping damage, skirting the miasma the entire time. Actually, Arcane shifting in at the very last second just to secure that kill, and that makes all the difference, because once the Cassio is down, well, unfortunately for Baolin's Zothri, while they're great at taking turrets, they are struggling a little bit into the tankiness of Scamber with that Eclipse, especially giving him so much full armor stats that he can actually survive long enough by that time for Mirio and Zekis to come back on. Now, the gold lead, ironically, didn't grow, because them finding that pick, them finding the shutdown Cody was huge.
What else can Fluxu find? Momochi did go fishing in the mid lane. Peach is on the side, but without a pick, this isn't going to turn into anything, and Miru is the person we got to keep our eyes on. It's certainly who Momochi's got eyes for, as he lands another hook. The Petrifying Gaze does a whole lot more than petrify. It obliterates. Fluxu find exactly the pick they were looking for, and just as before, with no Oriana, you really have a chance.
Yeah, Shockwave also got used earlier, so even if Miru is up, this is still a dicey proposition to come in. Fluxu going to take this one slow. Peach, happy to tank.
Scamber obliterated once more. This is a Jhin in full force, and Zekis, try as he might, is not going to be able to change the course of events for VKS. This will not, at the very least, be a clean 2-0 for VKS. They're going to have to claw their way back from the jaws of defeat as Fluxu go up 1-0.
Well, Dia, a bit of a surprise, I think, to most people who actually follow who have followed the first 2 weeks of VKS's performance. But to me, the big question is, how does VKS bounce back from this? Because VKS has been rather dominant in their wins so far. In the one game they dropped against Red, to be fair, their game 3 was a little bit shaky, and I think that was more on Fu kind of messing up for Red. Now, coming into this match, they have lost the game. Can they bounce back? Because Fluxu's looking clean, so I don't think if you're VKS, you can sit back and wait for a mistake. You got to force an error of some sort.
And I am not sure exactly how I would go about it, to be honest. This roster, honestly, had a good draft. I don't think a lot of things that I had a problem with. VKS certainly didn't have a Jace, as he wins yet another game. But outside of that, they drafted fine. This all looked good. I'm trying to think. Even in the bot lane, Ezreal, Leona, I think is the only thing that you might question.
But even then, I feel like Jessica performed arguably the best in the team. Him and Zekis did well. I think Jessica did everything right. There was nothing I felt I could ask more of him. So I don't even hate the picks. If anything, you got to look at the engine of the team. The two people who got them their wins is also, I feel like, the biggest underperformers this particular game. Desamis and Miru. Miru getting caught multiple times towards the end. That's not what cost them the game, but it certainly didn't help. And Desamis on this Lee Sin, we were hyped for it, Dia. You know, like you said, internationally, Lee Sin's become like a high prio pick. Traditionally, Desamis has done well on it, but this game, I just felt like Fluxu was more than happy to just play defensively, sit back, wait for the Lee Sin to fall off, and then later on, he just couldn't find any sort of traction into the game. So going into game 2, I think Desamis maybe pick something a bit more conservative, something that scales a little bit better. It doesn't have to carry the game in the early game and isn't putting your team onto some sort of timer.
And a big part of this as well is going to come down to, since, as you said, we're not really finding a lot of these things in the composition, but how it is that VKS want to play around vision and their own game plan. A lot of times, either because they could fully see them or because they had clearly reviewed. Fluxu knew exactly where VKS were doing and what they wanted to do. We didn't see a whole lot of panic teleports from Fluxu to answer a play that they didn't see coming. Even when we saw a nearly top lane dive, Fluxu were chilling. And VKS were the ones that were inventing plays, but also getting them countered by a team that clearly had read them. So they need to change up both how they control vision, but also the pace at which and where they are choosing to play the game from this one, because it is very clear at the least now that Fluxu know exactly what VKS want to do, and they have prepared how to play against it. We will see if that can happen, however, as we prepare for Game 2 after the break. just before the break, or just before we came back from break, our producer was kind enough to point out that while I had gotten up to get water, my cat was on my desk. And as a result, I have had the extreme joy of looking at my cat and watching her notice the dancing Morgana in the bottom left corner of her screen.
Was that what she was looking at?
She is obsessed with it. So, on that good note, let's talk about the game that we just saw and what we might continue to see, RMC. VKS Fluxu did not end the way that I think a lot of people, as you actually rightly said during the game, imagined that it would. But we've still got games left to play, or at the very least, game. So, takeaways from first game, and what can we expect for the second?
Well, I believe we actually have the post-match statistics available to us from the game. And you can see, and I think those stats will tell you kind of a huge story, because you can see that the numbers are brutally bad for Zothvi. And Desamus 4.4 thousand damage on a Lee Sin. A Skarner did 2.5 times more damage than he did. That is a huge yikes. Like, sure, top side, he got tripled as well. Sorry to tell you this, Dia, but Zothvi on Jace did the most damage to that game, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, it's a poke champion, and it's into attack.
He did the most damage of the winning side, right? I mean, Jessica.
True. You're right.
Obliterating this game.
Yeah, Jessica did work, and I am happy and proud to see another Swedish AD carry really finding success here in Brazil, because he has Smalley as an example. Smalley his coach now. But yeah, this top side of the map, specifically this jungle for VKS, is an issue, and I need to see Desamus step up. As Desamus goes, so does VKS.
Mm-hmm. I expected, a lot of people expected more out of the Lee Sin, which is completely understandable. I think that the biggest problem here wasn't even that he wasn't, doing something in team fights that he was expected to, although that was also an issue. But in the early game, Scamber was more active than him. And if you are picking Lee Sin, that can't happen. I think it's totally fine if you are picking, say, Skarner, and pre-6 that happens. But yeah, that was not the case, and Desamus may be lacking a little bit of early game direction with this, which is especially important when we consider, as you did in the early game, that he and Miru have been the core of this team's success. Desamus has to know what he wants to do, or at least Miru has to be dragging him to what they want to do. I don't care who's leading, but they have to dance together. And as it was, nobody was leading, and it was just sort of like two middle schoolers staring at each other from opposite ends of the ballroom. Well, I don't know. The loss condition happens. I don't know what the loss condition is for middle schoolers. They I'm
trying to think. What's Cody in this scenario? Like, the bully who just comes over, like, grabs the tweeds, shoves him in the locker or something, with the Cassiopeia.
Jessica and Zothvi are like making out in the middle of the room, and they're like, "Oh my god."
That is a wild image. Okay. And on that note, talking a little bit about game 2.
I'm so sorry.
That's gonna get clipped. Okay. Well. Because VKS lost game 1, they are going to get the first pick selection, and they've actually opted for a counter pick for themselves in this game. And then Fluxu has opted for red side, so it'll be first pick on red side for Fluxu. And I'm kind of curious where VKS is thinking they want to go with this. I mean, first pick obviously didn't work out for them with the Lee Sin early pick, but going into game 2, I mean, who do we give counter pick to? Do we give it to Miru, Zekis? I feel like Miru Cody was the Skybox matchup, so that's what I think CBLOL was thinking would be the big matchup, and we saw Cody win that one out, but I didn't feel like it was a counter pick. In fact, Cassio was blind in that situation, so I almost feel like they're trying to give Zekis then the big setup rather than Miru the big setup.
It could be. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Zekis set up for more, especially because he handled the Cassante Chase matchup really well. It is difficult to invest a lot in your top laners in this meta, which worries me, but it's the CBLOL, and so our top laners have historically been where the game is played, whether that's wise or not. I don't see VKS in their previous games being able to pull that off very effectively, and after the first game, I haven't got more confidence. I will say, to the credit of your theory that Zekis may be the point of investment. First game certainly didn't work, and he wasn't then, so
sure.
Maybe you change it up now.
Yeah, and also with Zothvi, this will be the first game where Zothvi is going to be forced off Jason Cassante. Because up to now, he's played one game Jace. Oh, sorry. one game of Jason Cassante each match he's played. But because Zeka's picked the Cassante, we are going to see Zothri on something else. And I don't know if he's got other carry picks. Again, the last time we saw him in Leviathan, he was often relegated to weak side tank champions. But I feel like that's very much not what he wants to do on this Fluxo team. He wants to be carry. Even when he plays Cassante, he's been playing aggressively as a backline diver, not as a tank for the team.
Yeah, I mean, we could see something like Gnar, Rumble, Sion, all options. And Sion especially, I think if you are not able to pick up Cassante, Sion is a champion you cannot mess up. And if you do, well, we'll talk about it, but just let the statement stand, guys. You cannot mess up Cassante, and it's also very blindable. So it may be the direction that Fluxo want to go in. If they do, it'll likely be first round, because otherwise I think VKS are thinking about it. As it is, we've got all 6 of our bands locked in, plus the Fearless from the first round. So what are we going with first pick for Fluxo?
Yeah, a lot of jungle pressure being put down, so I think Peach just wants to lock that supportive playmaker for the team, get that buy right away. We see the Nocturne and Wukong already banned away from Fluxo, and then the Jarvan Aatrox from VKS. So they're really trying to minimize the impact that these junglers can have. And if we're talking about sort of early game engines, champions that can make things happen, I'm still thinking the likes of Xin Zhao or Vi, for example. So the Vi's already been locked away. I'd love to see, yep, there we go. Xin Zhao being picked up for the Samus right away. You've got that early game pressure, and more importantly, you've got the oops button. If anything happens, if Vi gets in there, just press R. You can isolate Peach and stop the engagement happening.
I mean, it is a really nice pick for VKS. It is another pick, however, that, as you say, early game engine requires that you participate actively in the early game, or at the very least heavily incentivizes it. Given to Samus's last performance, I gotta hope that the coaches had something for him between games 1 and 2 that'll push him to be the jungler that we know he can be for this second game, because otherwise, a Xin Zhao who's not doing anything levels 1 to 6 is a Xin Zhao who's certainly not doing anything after 6.
No, you still have the art. You can still be a body, at least, and disengage fights. But by and large, you're right. In terms of his personal impact and his ability to influence fights, it's more about just setting up. Rumble actually picked up the Xin Zhao. That's an interesting choice to me, because while the Flame Spitter works inside the Crescent Guard, I've seen too many times the Equalizer not getting the full impact that it needs to get, just because Xin Zhao can stroll through that with Crescent Guard and not take any damage. Also, it's a very early sort of blind pick into the top lane here, and we're talking about potentially giving Zeka's counter pick. They can now give Miryu counter pick as well if they want. Rotate that Victor down into the bot lane, give it to Jessica. He's already played it once before. Into a Corki as well. I think Victor is a very playable matchup into that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not seeing any pressure put on VKS given how Fluxo are drafting so far. Rumble and Corki, yes, are generically powerful picks, but they don't work especially well into things, as you say, like Xin Zhao and Victor. If anything, this leaves the door open for VKS to start picking counter to them, to pick things that can mess up Rumble's day, to pick things that can mess up Corki's day.
And one thing we should note as well, the Xin Zhao Victor combo, I kind of like the idea, because on one hand, you have to play within the Crescent Guard range to actually do damage to Xin Zhao, but if you're playing in range of the Crescent Guard, you're also playing in range of Chaos Storm. So that combination from VKS is kind of putting Fluxo a little bit into a bind, and like you said, I've not seen any pick so far that I feel like it's really addressing these issues, nor putting pressure onto VKS whatsoever. Now, into the second phase of bans, we're seeing Ahri being taken away from VKS. We're not seeing a lot of sort of lane swap shenanigans potentially coming through, so it's support and mid laner. Fluxo know exactly what they need to focus on. VKS know what they need to focus on for Fluxo. And for Fluxo, they're banning away the Lucian, but that could still be a flex Victor into the bot lane, like we were talking about. So a bit harder for Fluxo in the second phase of bans.
I'm wondering if Fluxo can pivot to full disengage, knowing that you're going up against M-Pesa and Xin Zhao. You've got a Rumble and Corki. Can you play for something that kites back? On one hand, it works really well with 2 picks that you have. On the other, I can't curse. I can, but I won't. It messes up. It messes up Vi's day. It basically leaves Peach with nothing to do except in the worst case scenario. And yet at this point, it seems like the best option, especially with Shen locked in. All-inning VKS is a surefire way to die.
And how can they pivot? Yeah, I'm looking at this, like, Vi goes in, she doesn't come back out. Rumble can run backwards. But his Flame Spitter, You want him forward where the flame spitter is hitting the opponents rather than backwards where it's not hitting anything. So yeah, I'm already looking at this composition from Fluxu going like, yeah, I agree with you. I think trying to just double down on engage is going to be a bad idea, but at the same time, I don't see how they're flexing out of this. Alistar, a very safe neutral pick.
Yep.
Disengage, like you talked about, you can hit but engagers out potentially. Yeah, and then I guess we go with Rise, and the Rise to me really feels like sort of a handshake. Like, okay, we don't have a better pick. You know, we just need something. It can at least try and disengage with the Realm Warp. It's going to be a little bit iffy. We'll see how that goes. VKS, are they picking a mid lane or an AD carry? I'd like some sort of engage from them, besides throwing their body in there. Yone would do that if they wanted, engage. I mean, you could also go for an engage AD carry like Ashe or Varus.
I like Galio as well. I mean, okay. I like it's not crazy, but I think that you have a lot of damage already. And while this certainly doesn't push you over the edge into absurd amounts of just delete them damage, it doesn't look like VKS really need that. They have so much ability to weather the storm of any Fluxu engage that being able to turn things around, being able to keep Jeskla safe if Fluxu do decide to go in, is all they need to just infinitely tank through the rest of it and win.
Yeah, that's fair. And having the Galio into sort of double AP composition as well is going to feel really good. I just kind of hesitated because Galio is great secondary engage. He's great full up, especially with the hero's entrance. But he's not actually the best engager himself. But I guess with the sort of bruisery, tanky meatball nature that VKs have drafted themselves, he will not lack for somebody to use the hero's entrance on to get that sort of follow-up engage. Yeah, I'm liking the VKS draft a lot, and I think they kind of outplayed Fluxu in this draft. Fluxu, they kind of baited them into saying, okay, you don't want to double down, but ironically now with a full meatball composition, if Fluxu had doubled down on just big wobble combo team fights like AoE, there's a chance they come out the other end. But as it stands right now, yeah, it's going to be really tough. Fluxu need to run and gun. They need to find a massive advantage and snowball it ASAP.
As ever, I'm coming out of this with a positive and a negative, and I'll start with the negative. Fluxu, like you say, have drafted themselves, I think, into a hole when it comes to the team fights, because that is what we look at these as. We're looking at these 5v5, 5 champions against 5 champions. In a vacuum, this doesn't work. However, this is the positive here. Fluxu have drafted themselves a composition that can play the map pretty well, especially because they've got Vi and Rise. Visits to the side lanes can be coordinated and can be deadly. If they are able to play the map better, they should win. And that is good news only because they definitely did that in Game 1. Where at any other team, in any other circumstance, I'd say that's a risk. But Fluxu played better in Game 1. If they can win with this composition here, it'll be because they, again, just simply played way better League of Legends in Game 2.
And I feel like that would be the most CBLOL thing to have happen. Would be to have Fluxu win this in spite of how difficult the barrier to execution with their composition is in this particular game, and then that would throw a lot of questions in there, because VKS has performed so incredibly well up to this point that to lose this way I think would be a shocker, not just to their fans and people who are hoping that VKS would do well, but just to everybody following the league. And then you've got Fluxu who just brute force outmuscled ? And then that would make the middle of the standings once again very complicated, with only Low standing out and Loud potentially being able to extricate themselves depending on how their game goes, which will be the next game, I believe, but it will not be showed here on CBLOL English, unfortunately. Due to scheduling issues, we will not be able to show the second series of today here.
The scheduling issues are that it's going to be 2 a.m. here. I simply can't ruin my entire work week to show the CBLOL game. I'm sorry. I wish that I could as well, but Papa got bills to pay.
Yes, Tia, the daddy of CBLOL English. Bao, taking a beating right now. Where's the support?
Well, I was certainly happy until a brief moment ago. Wait, I'm happy again. Not only am I happy, I am elated. Bao getting out of that completely illegally is, again, the most CBLOL thing you could say.
Yeah, Flash is being traded between Jeskla and Bao to make that happen. And I am sorry to say, I was not tracking where Mochi was, because I know that both supports ran to the top lane. We're seeing this a lot with supports go to the top side, try and get some advantage for the solo laners in their 1v1. And then they rotate back to bot side. And we saw Scamber do that. I just don't know where Momoshi was when all that was happening, unfortunately. We did see Cody as well push in and absolutely punish Miryu in the mid lane, which should not be happening quite this early. Scamber?
Still level
Great
1
senses.
against the level 3 Peach, but Dasamis
sure,
shows
though.
up, equalizing all that, and Jeskla over the wall is able to throw in a good bit of damage as well. Peach, no flash,
Ooh.
but the Vault Breaker is going to get out to safety, despite the incredible amounts of violence that we have seen in the first 3 minutes of this game. No first bloods yet.
That's CBLOL for you. And I love, by the way, that we are getting so much action and violence, as you called it, and it's not just a CBLCK like snooze fest that's happening. I'm quite surprised by how that fight ended up going. I expected VKS to pressure a little bit harder, but they didn't. And on one hand, you can say good, they didn't waste time. They're back to their lanes a little bit faster, but I feel like Fuxu kind of took advantage of that a little bit. And they were able to get a bit more damage onto Jeskla on those rotations, punish VKS for not moving united together as a group. And they managed to slow Dasamis down. While they didn't get the red buff, Dasamis is kind of a bit behind in terms of being able to secure that camp. And what should have been a bigger advantage is just now a small CS camp advantage.
Momochi, unfortunately, dealing with the repercussions of this meta, much like Scamber. That is, the supports are on not just poverty wages like they used to be. Anybody who's been playing League Classic recently will remember exactly how poor we all used to be. But Momochi is dealing with the yeah, it was. But it's dealing with the XP disadvantage that supports so often find themselves in this meta specifically. In Chanter meta, it's not so bad, but when the supports are roaming, they're not picking up a lot of minion XP.
No, and perhaps that's why the jungle exchange kind of went the way it did, because the supports, despite being tankier engaged supports, were simply not in position level-wise to be able to tangle. And we saw Scamber being pushed out really early, Momochi not wanting to stick around. We once again see Momochi, by the way, pushed out of lane. The lane has not been kind to Momochi, and so, you know, I don't blame him roaming, but I do think he needs to stick around long enough to get some XP at least. Still not level 3, by the way. I thought that might take him over. Scamber able to soak up solo XP. That's going to help out a lot.
You know, this Rumble pick for Zothvi has been working out, though, at least in the lane early. That's where that is where Rumble, I think, in a lot of matchups can thrive. I've seen Ambessa matchups go both ways. I've experienced Ambessa matchups go both ways. But for the moment, Zothvi, not just holding strong, but actually doing very well in this lane, has just ticked 6, which is exactly where the matchup can reach a breaking point.
Yeah, and with Ambessa, I mean, traditionally it's sort of that one-item power spike that you're looking to come online with Ambessa. Once you pick up the Eclipse, that's when the lane kind of flips over. So very similar, I feel like, to the expectations I had in game 1 with how the top lane matchup is going to go, right? Where I expect Zothvi to win out early. I need to see Zothvi actually walk out with a bit of a CS lead and not just, you know, being even in CS. So I'm chill with Zekis right now. I think he's okay. He's in a fine position. Peach, though, could be the big change if he decides to show up. One thing we did kind of criticize Peach a little bit for last game was, you know, he sat back a little bit in the early game. Not that he needed to do anything, but this game, I do feel like he does need to do something. If the game keeps going statically and boringly, and Peach is not pushing the advantage, then, well, the shoe's on the other foot. Dasamis can sit back, even though his champion's technically the more early game of the two, but his team is the one that benefits more from scaling, whereas Peach, your champion wants to be 6 and do stuff, so I'll give you a pass till 6, but once you're 6, you need to help your team out.
Yeah, especially because, as you say, Dasamis has the benefit of a composition that works really well around him. When we originally saw the Xin Zhao, I was like, Xin Zhao's got to do stuff before 6, and now the pressure is kind of off. Like you say, still very powerful, but it's Peach who's on a timer, because level 6, you are only going to get so much time in the game where it's allowed to be about skirmishes and not 5v5s. Beyond a certain point, teams, the macro is going to organize it around when everyone is in the same place at the same time. But Vi, especially with the composition that she's currently working with, is going to thrive on creating numbers advantages, and that is something Peach absolutely does not have right now.
Whew. So Peach, I was getting really worried, and Peach had vision of all the BKS members streaming into the jungle, but he knew his timing perfectly, able to smite, last hit that red buff away, and then do the quick fade away so that BKS was not able to punish. Another slowdown for Dasamis, and I feel like Dasamis' early sort of camp lead, the half a camp lead that he got early, has been kind of nullified. Miryu has to burn the flash. Kind of caught shopping a little bit. Saw Peach turn the corner, or didn't see Peach turn the corner, I guess.
Very different look than what we saw last game, with a lot of confidence from our mid laners. I don't know if he had to flash there, but here, everyone would certainly like it. Momochi level 3, glad to have his, but unfortunately, not going to save Miru from going down. And unfortunately, Scamber from going down. Not the easiest or most survivable time, as we talked about, for supports. And Fluxu make good use of that with the Realm Warp.
Yeah, and I feel like VKS got caught with their pants down a little bit. The hero's entrance not used by Miru. I think he actually had to teleport to try and get in range to use the hero's entrance. Didn't come out. Jeskla solved the rotate as well. And yeah, as much as we favor the compositions from Fluxu, we did say if there is a way for Fluxu to come back into this, it's off the hands and off the early game. And for now, Fluxu is delivering. Zekas not able to find the angle for the public execution. An early flash for Zothvi, but one that sees him living and continuing his CS lead.
And it's so worth it in a case like this, especially with the Void Grubs now being focused by VKS. Zothvi expending his flash draws 2 people up to the top lane and secures the dragon for nothing for the rest of his team. Yes, Void Grubs are likely to go over, but you always want to be absorbing pressure as a top laner, especially around these neutral objectives. And a play like that, I think speaks really well of Zothvi, not just in the moment of being able to save his life, but in his macro sense of what he needs to do for the team.
Yeah, and to be fair, I think as well, he might not have been fully aware that the grubs are being done at that point. It's slightly desync from sort of the dragon take that happened earlier. So yeah, surviving is just the most important thing. Like you said, soaking that pressure, maybe the team can try and find something on the other side of the map. The best part too is that because he flashed early, he didn't even take damage. So he can still sit under that turret if he wants to try and stall any early plate taking that otherwise we would see Zekas try and go for. We are unfortunately in a game pause. Not quite sure what's caused this pause for now. I'm trying to see if the refs are speaking to any of the players in particular. I'm not seeing them talk to any of the Luxu players, so I'm going to assume it might be on the VKS side of things. Show us the VKS games.
We'll see. We're gonna go through them. Production's got us. Big production.
Okay. No, everybody's kind of quiet, so not quite sure who's causing it. It is going to break momentum potentially, though, and I think Fluxu was kind of having momentum build on their side a little bit there. I've been liking, again, the way they played here is not the way I would have expected Fluxu to play. Even towards the end of Split 1, when they made the strong late season run into playoffs, it wasn't their strategic play that impressed me. If anything, it was their willingness to scrap and sort of the connection they were starting to find together, as well as Peach and Momochi being really good at, or being very willing to force action in the mid game. It wasn't, just finding the right timings necessarily to make things happen. It was more just the willingness to do so. But in this series so far, Fluxu are finding the right timing windows, and if anything, it feels like BKS are actually slightly out of the timing pockets.
As we get back into the game, I mean, I can't help but feel happy for Fluxu. I mean, I don't favor a particular team in this matchup. This isn't, like when we're casting Pain, where I'm rooting for or against them based on how our particular weeks have gone, RMC. This is this is a case where I'm happy to see both games, especially exactly in Game 2, come out on top. But I can't help but feel a bit of pride in watching Fluxu, at the very least, take an early lead in exactly what we said they needed to, which is control of the map with a composition that we deemed largely inferior.
Yeah, Bao gonna be perfectly fine in that situation, actually able to turn around and pump out a lot of damage. Yeah, it feels like we're seeing the praise of Fluxu a lot. I want to see VKS do something, but to be fair, they don't have to. So in this early game, our eyes are fixed on Fluxu more because they have to make pressure happen. VKS, on the other hand, they've been doing fine. Miru is actually up CS, which is impressive in a melee versus ranged matchup, where he's not being bullied, where he normally would get bullied out, and we actually saw him get pushed out, the first player to get pushed out of his lane, actually. We see Jeskla pretty much dead even with Bao, which is fine. Both of them will scale very, very well. I'd argue Victor does a little bit more damage in the sort of short-range trades. And in the top side, that's the one big difference we're starting to see is Zek is being pushed out. But I'm still just waiting for the Eclipse to come through. Once the Eclipse comes through, Dia, that's when I'm going to start to expect VKS to be a little bit more, be a little firmer in how they're dealing with their matchups and lanes.
Might be able to look for that around the next couple of dragons. First one already went to Fluxu. We've got the next in just about 2 minutes. One of the things that I'd like to see from Fluxu before that happens, before we are actually in the dragon pit, is a Wild. Peach still has a timer running on them, and for Vi, unfortunately, that is not a countdown like it is with Kale to level 16 and you simply winning the game. Peach will be thrust into irrelevance non-consensually, and that is going to happen sooner rather than later. Peach needs to be as active as even Scamber has been on the map, and I'd be happy. Because, I mean, if you're looking at Scamber is much like in Game 1, sprinting through the enemy jungle, trying to make as many plays as possible.
Well, to be fair to Scamber, I think he's also kind of waiting for the level 6 to come through, where he gets access to that Stand United. And sure enough, he actually has it now, and I guess that's the other thing we needed to wait for. I was talking a lot about Zekis hitting the Eclipse, but Miryu and Scamber getting access to their ultimates, the globals, might also change a lot. Some of these Zekis becomes a lot harder to gank when any 1v1 can very quickly become a 1v3 style situation. Now, that's all theoretical, yeah. We have to see whether or not they actually put into practice. Because last game, we talked a lot about theoretical for VKS. It didn't come through. Desamis barely got any ganks off. And we've talked a lot about the theoretical of their compositions. Well, Fuxu's been showing us the practical of their decision-making and their ability to make early game stuff happen.
I mean, it is very true. Despite everything that we've said so far, Fluxu have not yet struggled. And I say yet, because in theory, this continues to work for VKS. The fact that they have not found a team fight yet shouldn't matter. I say shouldn't, because this is the CBLOL. And because it's Fluxu, who did win Game 1, who do have the momentum coming into and hopefully out of this game. Peach, maybe a little bit too much momentum into that bush, is going to be forced to burn the flash, but not the end of the world. Can even consider going back in with Momochi on the flank right now. Is going to miss the Vault Breaker onto Miryu, but finds it onto Desamis. Crescent Guard forced out, and now Peach all alone inside of it will melt. A teleport from Zekis makes this dangerous ground for Cody, who will be taunted and slain by VKS. VKS find the team fight they were looking for, and with it, do exactly what we knew they would.
There we go, Tia. There we go. VKS finally online and doing the work they were supposed to. And for Fluxu, very unfortunate for them. They were capitalizing so well in their early game. They were building up, and just like that, the switch flips. And look, the gold is pretty much dead even. It sounds like a doomsday scenario, the way I'm talking about it. It's more just of the momentum and how their compositions kind of match up. And for Fluxu, losing the lead like that is really going to hurt, because it does not get better for them in the near future. If anything, it gets kind of dicey. The fight itself was... Desamis kind of just walking blind again, whereas Fluxu have knowledge and information. But that's kind of what makes this a little bit worse for Fluxu. It's because they have knowledge, they have information, they know where everybody is. They still thought, hey, we can win this 3v3. And I think the big difference maker here is the fact that Zekis was willing to TP down. But once again, Zothvi isn't. And we saw this in Game 1. The numbers disadvantage that Fluxu put themselves in cost them a fight. Last game, they're able to fight back from it. This game, well, it's evened up the game. I need to see Fluxu kind of reassert themselves and reset. If not, I think VKS are in a very comfortable spot.
Yeah, I mean, Zothvi got a lot of credit from me for flashing away from the engaged topside when his team was taking Dragon. Me going, wow, what map awareness. What incredible restraint. And then I see it happen here where he sits top lane and his team fights, and I go, maybe he's just playing really selfishly. And I'm not taking the brownie points away. I'm not doing that, because the ways of League and the ways of Zothvi, they are mysterious. But I remain perhaps in the position that I was coming into this game, which is with a bit of a question mark over how this top laner is choosing to play right now, especially given the amount of investment that his team is putting into him in the early game, in the picks. I am not seeing that paid back to his team in the ways that Cody was able to during Game 1.
Yeah, and to be fair to Zothvi, he didn't have the equalizer available for that fight. We'll try to use it for the fight now. Zekis misses!
Yeah, that's my bad. I guess he's just the GOAT. The ways of Zothvi are mysterious, man. I don't know what to say. Here I am dooming, and then he just solo kills Zekis, and actually it's fine.
Yeah, Zothvi just landing all the skill shots, and Zekis unfortunately not finding the necessary public execution he needed to get out of the situation. Zothvi, though, now out of cooldowns, out of summoners.
And taunted as well. This is bad to worse as Jeskla shows up. Does not actually pick the kill. Desamis is going to do that, but 3 people getting involved in a little bit of KP certainly won't hurt VKS, and Zothvi going down, at the very least, lets me look not so much the fool as I did a minute ago.
Fair enough. You said the ways of Zothvi are mysterious. We do not understand when he gives
he
and when...
and he, my God, he taketh away.
I feel like that's the best part about CBLOL, right? Is when these players they show us the duality of man in all the mirrored ways. VKS with a lock on this top side. They got the 3 Void Grubs earlier. They should be able to secure this Herald without too much fuss. You can see Peach not even thinking about trying to contest this, and VKS have been dominating the objective game this game. They got managed to get one of the early drags as well, and now Cody, he's caught up, has to use the Ghost early.
It's really in sharp contrast to our first game as well in the whole season for Fluxu, where they have been the ones to take Void Grubs, to take Rift Herald, and now with both of those going to VKS, it's not just a reversal of game 1, it's a reversal of how Fluxu established themselves. Why are we getting... I mean, it's good. Is it cinematic shot? Good? I guess it kind of is.
Oh, smile. Gotta feel for him, man. Like, they look like, what? Why? Why did we even do this? And you kind of understand. Zekas was feeling strong. He was applying pressure of the Eclipse, but yeah, I think just taking the extra turret shot or 2 earlier really cost him that lane pressure. And Cody, looks like it's a realm warp to safety. Yeah, I just see the out cooldown down. I don't know if he got caught in lane or in river. Zekas getting caught in lane though.
Yeah, we're repeating from just a few minutes ago. Not even a few minutes, like 45 seconds ago. Zekas popped into another 40-second death timer. Will have spent the majority of the last 2 minutes in a gray screen, and a lot of investment from Fluxu on the top side to make that happen is at the very least going to cost them a bot lane tower.
Yeah, I feel like we're on a pendulum and we keep swinging back and forth. Like, you're back and forth in Zothvi. I'm back and forth in the global ultimates right now. Because Fluxu has picked some dangerous fights when VKS have had those ults up and got punished for it. But then they make plays like this on Zekas, where it's like, okay, you played really well around the Stand United still being down and Mirror being in the bot lane. Now, I'd like to believe that they are doing this intentionally. They're not just constantly trying to pick on Zekas and praying that it works, but that they're actually timing these ultimates out. And if they are doing that, it's working, because it's kept them in the game. You can see the gold is still pretty much dead even. And if there is a place for Fluxu to try and make things happen right now, I do feel like it's in the side lanes. If you can get a big enough lead in the side lanes, then maybe you can look for a team fight. And even then, preferably not a front to back one, but one where somebody can find a flank to help Peach out, or Peach can really find access to a squishy. Amber?
This is a situation with the Rift Herald crashing and not securing the tower, where Fluxu can still fight for this dragon. It's not ideal. VKS will probably 5v5 it, but it is certainly a situation where Zothvi, who's about to have teleport back up, should be considering using it. Because if they win this fight, the game gets so much easier for Fluxu. As it is now, I'm not even sure they take it.
Yeah, I think VKS are taking this slower than expected. Peach with a great wraparound to go on a solo scouting mission, but it's a little too late for them. VKS able to secure this one, just zoning out Fluxu. And for Fluxu, like you called, I think Zothvi, if they wanted to make the call to fight for this, Zothvi needed to teleport like as soon as you were talking about it. And the fact that they kind of didn't, that signaled to me right away that Fluxu just didn't really want any piece of this. We get to see the Realm Warp, I guess, that really forced Cody out of lane right here.
And that's why Zekas didn't have public execution for when he gets ganked in like 3 seconds. 1, 2.
Yeah.
I know it was sped up, guys, but it made me look really on the same page as production. We can't speak to production. Well, we can speak to production. We can't speak to Big Brother production. That's in Brazil.
Yeah, we can't speak to the cameramen, but they do a fantastic job anyways. And we're locked in. We're right with them.
If they're listening, no notes.
And for Cody, it's kind of disgusting that he kind of got away. I thought the public execution would have been enough to cancel it, because if you can CC them, but I guess it must be at the end of it. And that is our producer, of course, Rose, who's saying hi right there, who does a phenomenal job. Also, wisecracks a lot. If you hear us cracking up for no reason, it's probably because Rose says something funny either in our ear or in chat. Now, back to the game.
Rose gave us really important information earlier. It was the name of the Spider-Man movie. I forgot it again. It's not Breaking Dawn. It's
Brand New Day.
Thank you, Brand New Day. Which, if you think about it, very close to Breaking Dawn.
True.
It's just the Spider-Man version of Breaking Dawn. I know it's a Twilight book, Rose.
Yeah, try not to say anything because it was like
No,
I feel like we're learning about Dia's taste in literature.
Listen, I am unabashedly marathoning the Twilight movies every October. We're good,
Why?
guys. We got it.
Dia,
Pacific
please,
Northwest.
if you need help, now's the time to announce.
Fluxu managed to take the mid lane tower in a remarkable show of force. That being, they show up with 4 people and VKS say, all right, I guess you can have it. However, it's not like VKS don't get anything done around the rest of the map. They were able to claim the top lane tower. In the meantime, get a wave pushed in there, and Zekus now unlocked to roam down to the mid lane and hopefully secure this for VKS themselves. They've been trying for some time to get this mid lane tower, and Fluxu are not budging on it.
Well, they will have to now. And actually trying to defend this is a problem.
Big flash in from Zekus to secure that kill. Cody still alive, but now without an AD carry. Sort of realizing that his scroll may not be all that powerful. Peach has taken the wrong way over this wall as well, and he is going to be cooked. Even on Zothavi's equalizer, he will die. The rest of VKS not bothering about the damage because it's a 4v1. When I was worried about numbers advantages or even the numbers being even for VKS, I was at least hoping that they would be even. But VKS, in that sequence, took a 4v3 and a 5v1 in quick succession.
Well, 4 is an even number, Dia, so there was some sort of even happening, but I think this is the first major misstep we've seen from Fluxu this series, and it came back to bite them. Trying to defend the mid lane. Okay, actually, the series of plays happens actually before that, and it's the choice for Fluxu to 4-man the mid lane. I really like VKS's response. They didn't try and hold the mid lane. They just sent Jeskla there to wave clear as much as possible so you can only get the 1 turret. And then they go for both the side lanes at the same time. Take note of where Miru is in this bot lane. The rest of them now collapse into the mid lane, and that's where the huge misstep from Fluxu is, where they overstay their welcome. That turret was always going down. You can't be there. And because they chose to stay, they end up losing Bao. And without Bao, you don't have the ability to go front to back anymore. You don't have enough damage. Peach, by the way, goes down without Burning Flash. So Peach couldn't quite get close enough to the wall.
That's good.
Takes too long to do so. It's good in that he will have Flash up. It's bad in that that's kind of what costs them all that pressure. After Bao goes down, Peach goes down. They haven't quite lost the play on the bot side, but they will. They lost 2 more plates in the mid lane, and they've lost all control of their jungle in this lower half of the map.
I mean, a man can hope and say, you know, Peach having Flash theoretically could work out for them in the next play, but that unfortunately means that Fluxu have to manufacture one. And unlike last game, I haven't seen VKS really making plays that Fluxu are responding to in the same way, because once VKS are making the play, responding doesn't work. It's not like last game where having a 5v5 is actually even or better for Fluxu. Having a 5v5 is worse. Fluxu need to be proactive, and they have, even in this fight, been a little reactive. Cody having to flash away, just the least of that. As he burns down, Jeskla will flash to secure the kill, and it is a huge numbers advantage for VKS as Miru flashes underneath the tower, which should be fine, but he's taking a lot of tower shots, and unfortunately, it is not. Zotfi gonna lay in the equalizer. Desamas not too bothered about that at all, but the rest of VKS still worried about a potential Fluxu collapse. Bao, unfortunately, eats a bit too much and has to back away, and VKS get away with another 2 plays in their favor.
And that should be so point going the way of VKS. Ping's already coming down, and it's Zekus playing a little bit with fire, looking for Bao here.
Omochi happy to stand in his face, as the Alistair do. But the dragon is the real target. This is the 3rd dragon. This is sole point for VKS, putting Fluxu on even more of a timer than they have been experiencing all games. The threat of Soul, even a Chemtech Soul, the worst Soul, is still strong.
And the thing with Chemtech Soul is normally it's not great because it doesn't help everybody. But yeah, we get into a replay and we'll continue that thought on the Soul after. But the Realm Warp and Scamper getting that taunt off was picture perfect. You add the Chaos Storm in front of that, and suddenly Fluxu can't push it. And this is where the comp becomes a problem. Because like you're saying, Dia, Fluxu's composition is great when they're being proactive and making the plays happen. But reactively, you can see how limited their tools are. And Peach, he saves the flash, Dia, and it should have been an option. It should have been an opportunity for Fluxu to make an aggressive play. Ends up burning it defensively anyways, and doesn't survive the second time either. So it really is hurting Fluxu, and now they don't even have that flash available for their next play. They are firmly on the back foot. They're down 3,000 gold. Baron is up and on the table, and I fear for Fluxu at this point, because if they get Baron, VKS are going to find so much more. All those inner turrets just become standing gold.
Cody not going to get out of this. Well-timed CC to layer on top of the Realm Warp for VKS. And the Rise, unfortunately, does not make it. That is a top lane tower falling, and a gold lead that continues expanding from before, when it was sort of in the non-notable 2,000 gold category. Now starting to push 4,000 with VKS firmly in control of the map. It bears talking about. This advantage is not solidly game-winning, but it is a symptom of a very clear game state.
And while by itself it won't win you the game, when you throw into the mix the compositions as well, suddenly it might be the primary cause of death for Fluxu. Oh, was that a public execution from Zekas? He was fishing, not able to find it once again though. Peach running for the hills, dodges out the scryers, so Miru will give up the chase for now. And Fluxu, they do lose 2 inner turrets here, and that's even before Baron went down. If Baron goes down now, it'll suddenly be a threat onto not just inner turrets, not just standing gold, but onto actually cracking the base open.
So this is the part where I get to go, I am just a little play-by-play, and so I don't have to solve this big complicated problem that I want to throw at you. But last game, we were at least looking at VKS and going, well, there's Orianna, so that's fun. And Orianna can press her big happy button and make VKS win. Oh no, she didn't do it? That's too bad. Fluxu do not appear to have that this game. They don't have what VKS had, which is at least a little bit of hope. They have fill in the blank RMC, because I'm out of thoughts.
They have power cables they could unplug on VKS's computers? No, not actually. Well, realistically, the problem is their composition. What does it want to do at this point, Dia? Like, they normally want to get some sort of catch, single target, equalize their way into the fight. I don't know if that's an option anymore, especially, ironically, with the Chemtech Soul, and that's why I want to go back to it, because Tenacity is going to do a lot of work for this VKS squad. Suddenly, you're not going to be able to lock them down with CC. Peach is getting soloed out right now by Dishonest.
This is winnable for Fluxu if they get there before Peach dies, but they do not. Bao now caught in between Zekas and a golden Miru. It is now impossible to win this fight. And with a jungler, with an AD carry, and, well, a support. It's a third person. Down, VKS will be getting away with a lot more than just the kill. Zothvi and Cody are both going to opt into their deaths. An ace, now followed by a Baron, tells us we're going to game 3.
Greater love hath no man than this, Dia, to lay down his life for his brother. Cody showed great love, but not a lot of sense. I'm going to be honest, that was wholly unnecessary. Just take the Realm Warp, get out. Like, it was never going to help your buddy over there to survive. Like, Zothvi, if he's cooked, he's cooked. Like, you're just not getting him out. And just like that, I think that right there, Dia, was the game-breaking fight. VKS with the Baron, with the kills, 8,500 gold. They just need to push in together and look for a win. And we were talking about, okay, what does Fluxu look for? Maybe they look for a catch. There should be no chance for a catch anymore. VKS group up as 5. If you push in, any catch Fluxu is looking for just becomes an engage, and in a straight 5v5, VKS takes it.
Unfortunately, as you've highlighted, there's not a lot of options for Fluxu anymore, and we see that illustrated perfectly here. As even in their own jungle, Fluxu are not safe, perhaps even underneath their own tower, as Miru seems to be toying with that idea. Yeah. Baron knocking on the tier 2 tower, and that is the last tier 2 tower that will fall for Fluxu in this game. The rest of VKS are looking at the base and staring down what is, I think they are hoping for, a Fluxu engage, because Fluxu have to start a fight at some point, and they lose any fight they start.
I don't know if they want to start right now. Cody already lost half his health to just poking his head out there. Wasn't even really able to significantly chip away on that burned up siege cannon. So that's going to keep pushing in. Fluxu, they just need to reset right now and look for that Hail Mary. Realm Warp is available. They can look for a flank. Would a flank save them, Dia? Probably not, but it's your best shot.
Momoshi looking for a way in, but Miru denies it with the taunt. Zekus has found Peach on the left side, and Peach almost disintegrates before the Ambessa. VKS have not even killed a champion yet, and the first tower has fallen. Second on the block, and Fluxu must start the fight that ends this game against them. Unless they just want to go down without doing anything, Momoshi's going to actually start it. In comes the hero's entrance over the top to completely deny the rest of Fluxu's follow-up, and Desamas, invincible in the front lines, as we knew he would be, is going to get a taunt to help him secure a double kill. Fluxu, unable to outplay their own draft, will fall in game number 2, pushing us to a third.
Yeah, perhaps rumors of Fluxu's strategic genius were overstated. Like, It looked so good in game 1, but the game 2 was like night and day, and I don't know what happened. It just feels like Fluxu made one mistake, and then from there they just kind of lost their nerve. That last base push, they should have fought.
They should have fought what?
They should have fought somewhere. Like, they should have fought while the turrets were up. They needed to just go, and they just didn't.
I think I agree with you that the optimal play, like the highest percentage play, was earlier. I think it was just always a losing play. You know, like that. By the time we started talking about it, by the time I posed that complicated question that I didn't want to answer, VKS were going to win the game lest they CBLOL it too close to the sun. And that, I think, we're saving for game 3.
I hope it won't be the case for VKS. I mean, they showed that when they're ahead, they know how to close out a game. They look so much more comfortable. The moment they get any sort of lead, that's when they start to come online massively. And I'm glad, that Samus as well. The early game, a little bit quiet, but, we were saying, okay, we're waiting for Scamber to hit 6. We're waiting for Zekus to hit the power spike with the Eclipse. The moment it happened, give props to BKS, they turned on their gameplay as well. And then the moment they punished Fluxu in that mid lane, took that little bit of an inch, they very quickly extended it to a foot, and then the whole leg and torso shortly after. So yeah, well played from VKS. And going into game 3, it does feel like a little bit, it might come down to draft, as it did kind of in game 1, game 2. Teams need to take the easy to execute compositions. Don't put too much burden of execution on yourself needlessly. In game 1, VKS felt like they put themselves on a timer. They lost out on that. Game 2, Fluxu, no, to give credit, I think VKS outplayed them in draft. And the moment that happened, Fluxu really struggled to be able to find winning ways with their composition. So perhaps it might just come down to the first 5 minutes of the game, or first 5 minutes of the stage, and what they actually pick up to go into the rest.
It certainly will, and we'll get to talk a little bit more about what we want to see from Fluxu and VKS in the draft when we get back from a short break.
So hold our heads up high and beat the drum to what we love. Risk the fall, or we have felt it all come crashing down from far above. Stars are rising, countless worlds colliding, only one will take it all. Can we bring to fall the giants? Can we make the final call? We are the ones to ignite the darkened skies, the champions of the world that we defy. A solo ride of the few who rise up high, and we all fight at the last
Hello everyone, let's jump into Champ Select because we are on it for VKS and Fluxu's game number 3. RMC, I promised everybody that we would talk a little bit about what we want from Fluxu, but we're going to find out what we're getting from Fluxu with the first 2 picks in answer to Wukong being Lucian and Melio. And funnily enough, this aligns with what I wanted. I'll talk about that in a second, but give me your thoughts.
Okay, I'm curious what you want to know because it feels like they've doubled down a little bit on the early game. Now, Lucian with Melio as a combo goes into the mid game pretty strong as well, so it's not quite as bad as it used to be, or the Lucian Nami combo that's really all about the early game. But picking it blind like that, that's the problem. Now you're going to see the counter picks to come through. Caitlyn Karma, that is an abusive lane filled with a ton of poke, and while Melio can heal a little bit, he's not going to be able to match up with Caitlyn Karma. Lucian's going to struggle to get in range of Caitlyn, and 90 caliber net to the face is going to be more than enough for her to disengage. And the ranges they're playing at, I don't feel comfortable with when we already see the Wukong locked in.
So, let me talk about why I like what Fluxu is giving us, because I think you're right on this count, but there's a very specific thing that I'm looking for Fluxu in this draft, and Ari goes along with it as well. It is the ability to respond to plays, and to have that be where your champions are at their strongest. While Lucian may not particularly fit that, Lucian does go really well with Melio, and Melio is a great champion to respond to aggressive plays that VKS are making. It's clearly where Fluxu were strong in game number 1. It is clearly where their draft was weak in game number 2, despite them wanting to do it. So if Fluxu were going to insist on playing this way, I want them to pick champions that can respond Chu aggressive plays that Fluxu are making, that it means high mobility, that means good disengage, and the ability to fight well on the back foot in a more effective way than if you're engaging.
True, and the fire kick from Milio is going to do a lot to stop potential engages coming through from the Wukong, for example. So, yeah, I like where your head's at, Tia. I agree with it. Sort of the second phase of bans coming through right now. Silas and Annie being taken away by Fluxu. They're trying to stop more potential follow-up on that Cyclone that can come through from Wukong, some of the wombo combos to punish shorter range as well. Whereas Nefiri Vayne being taken away. And anytime I see the Vayne Bandia, I'm thinking, yeah, either facing Zest or you're looking for something tankier in the top side that will not do so well into the Silver Balls.
I do wonder what they'll end up going with. I mean, a tank in the top side would look really good right now. I've been baited by so many hovers, but so many of them have been VKSs that I can't help but wonder if this Siobhan is a serious consideration. No. Turns out not. I was hoping, because you know, it wouldn't really work with what I wanted, but at the same time, it's interesting. Maokai, however, weirdly does, and so the theme of Fluxu being able to counter-engage effectively actually does work quite well. It's up to VKS to solve this problem. They've got strength, that's for sure, but where are VKS winning definitively?
With VKS right now, I think they're actually winning the range war, which is why, while I like the Maokai pick to be reactive and stop engages from coming through, I don't feel like VKS is pigeonholed into engages by any means right now. You've got the Karma, you've got the Caitlyn, you outrange a lot of what Fluxu wants to do. The only problem is you don't match perhaps the healing, the sustain that Middle can pump out, but Karma has shields as well, so if you're eating poke from the Maokai saplings, it's not the end of the world. Gnar already being locked in because you have to blind pick a champion at this point. Okay, I can see why they banned the Vayne. Gnar can be vulnerable at times to the Vayne, but the Aurora into Ari. So the VKS composition feels a lot more like individual units now. Like you want the 1v1 up top, you want the 1v... you might not want the 1v1 up top anymore with the Olaf coming through. You want the 1v1 in the mid lane, and you want the 2v2 sort of matchups, and they want to extend that as much as possible. The team fighting becomes a lot more complicated for both these teams, where VKS has good team fighting with the Mega Gnar and the Cyclone, but at the same time, they're going to have problems actually finding those engages they want into the likes of a Maokai and the Milio that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I walk away from this draft as somebody who would be interested in a VKS comeback right now. Not selling here. I'm not rooting for either of these teams. I am rooting for good League of Legends. And to me, part of good League of Legends comes with seeing teams that are able to very clearly adapt between games. And for that reason, I like what Fluxu have given us, because I think it gives them the best chance of winning with what worked for them in Game 1, what they identified wasn't working in Game 2, and hopefully what will in Game 3. However, I think if VKS are going to shut this down, it also comes with a plethora of benefits and good things we can say about them, because I think Fluxu have drafted incredibly around their strengths this series, and for VKS, this composition maybe is a little bit weaker into that play style. And in the same way as Fluxu, if they're somehow able to still make it work and leverage the range advantage that you mentioned that they have instead of the aggression advantage that they had in Game 1, change out those steps, I think it turns into a really good series and a really good news story for them as well.
Fair enough, and for Fluxu, I feel like a lot of it does come down to sort of how you alluded to, but more specifically how their lane individual matchups go. We talked a lot about the bot lane because that was the first lane locked in, but even the Aurora Ari lane is a skill matchup. And if whoever wins that side of the matchup can take control over the middle of the map. The top side is where my eyes are fixed, though, because Fluxu opted for counter pick, and Olaf was the big counter that they decided to pick into Zekis's Gnar. Now, on paper, it works out. With the Ghost, you run down Mini Gnar, and you absolutely just abuse him, aside from the hop, skip, jump away. Zekis has to flash. If not, he's going to have a lot of problems once Olaf is in his face. But, historically speaking, I don't remember Zothby as an Olaf player, and I feel like the Olaf playstyle demands a certain mindset, one that I'm not certain that we've seen Zothby demonstrate consistently. We saw it a little bit last game with the Rumble, when he found the good angle onto Mbessa, but with the Olaf, you have to have that mentality 24/7. Like, you cannot take your foot off the gas. And I just quickly double-checked, Zothby has only ever played Olaf once in pro career. It was in LLA 2023, so it's been a while, and it's been very, very scarce.
Yeah, I mean, you raise a really good point that it really just does not seem like a champion that his playstyle jives with. The fact that we saw Rumble and Jace from him in games 2 and 1 just works a lot better, to be honest, and seems to be where he is leaning, especially in this meta. So not seeing that in game number 3 could be a red flag. It could also be an opportunity for Zothvi to, I don't want to say prove us wrong, but more demonstrate a new side of himself to the CBLOL at large, which would be incredibly beneficial, not just for winning this game, but for him as a player in the CBLOL and his overall career value.
I think having that Olaf in your back pocket, if you can show that I can play this, it makes you a much bigger threat in the league. We're seeing other regions like kind of start considering Olaf as a pick. Now, I do think it does need setup, and it's not something you necessarily blind, but in this case, I do think Zothvi, it's a good situation for the Olaf. There's a lot of CC that you can kind of just power your way through. There's a lot of threats you can take out. Same with the Caitlyn and the Karma. If you somehow find your way into the back line, Olaf is going to do a lot of damage. So I think it's a great position for this Olaf pick. And yeah, it's a great setup for Zothvi to really strut his stuff. Now, if he does struggle to play it, though, the inverse is true as well, right? If you're set up for success and you can't make the champion work, then teams going forward will not be worried about Olaf against Fluxu.
One of the things that I am worried about even now is that Zothvi gets a really good lane, is really strong, and one of the most powerful things about this pick in this composition is that he is the obvious engage target in a team fight, and he gets to press R and actually say, no, I engage on you. One of the biggest problems is that Zothvi is, in this series, not been in team fights. And if he's not there, who cares?
That is painfully true. And when I'm looking at him just kind of running in as well, it does put Fluxu's composition in a bit of a bind, because if Zothvi gets big enough as a juggernaut that he can just brute force and run in, and that works, it's great. But he also doesn't have a lot of dive buddies with him. At best, he has Peach, who might follow up, and what we've seen from a lot of jungle Maokais is they're AP. So if Peach goes running in with Zothvi, there's a very real world in which he dies before he actually has significant impact. I think what they're most likely going to look for is for Peach to find flank positions to get the Maokai ultimate off to set up for Zothvi to be able to run it in front line. Oh, Zekkas might be dead here.
I was going to say we've been talking about Zothvi for a little bit too long. Maybe it's time we talk about Peach, but then he pops Ghost and runs under tower. Fortunately,
another axe
all of that gives us the opportunity to talk about Peach, who is coming up to the top side, countering Desamus. He's been, much like Desamus, full clear in the jungle, on repeat for the first couple of minutes of the game. There has not been a lot of action in this game, and for good reason. I think both of these teams are very happy, especially their junglers, to wait until level 6 for their real impact. Bot lane is going to be perma-shoved in by the Caitlyn and Karma. Nobody wants to fight that. Zothvi wanted to fight earlier, but now flashes away and gets first blooded by Zekkas 5 minutes into the game. That is not what Zothvi was looking for out of Zothvi, that's for sure.
It's funny because I didn't have that on my bingo cards yet, despite the fact that I literally just said, I don't know if Zothvi has the right mindset for this and knows how to play champion well enough. And sure enough, Zekkas' comfort with the Gnar really shows through. I mean, it was a good flash from Zothvi to not die the first time, but he was still out the lane with no way past a Mega Gnar. So, unfortunately for Zothvi, gets set behind, and you got to remember with Olaf, he really is a snowball champion. If he gets ahead, he becomes an absolute menace. If he falls behind, he's worse than a traffic cone because he won't even trip up the opponents. He'll just melt and be extra gold fodder for the other side. Bao now left alone. I think they actually did confirm that Momochi based.
Flash forward from Scamber is nicely timed, and they definitely knew that Momochi had to base. So VKS get a lot, not for free though. That is a flash out of Bao. Barrier still up, and a lot of damage traded back onto Scamber. With Desamus having showed on the map here, it's a, I would say, net lightly positive trade for VKS. But let's take a look back at this definitely positive one.
Yeah, and again, good flash from Zothvi to get out the first time, but then you kind of don't have a good way out from that situation. So I think that reaction from the Fluxu coaching staff is
Face
appropriate.
bomb.
Yeah, I mean, one guy face bombs. The other two are just like, well, there's not much to say, right? Like that replay alone doesn't really show the whole setup to this. And while we've not seen too much blood on the Rift, I mean, 1 kill at 6 minutes is a decent amount. I do think there has been a lot of action in the side lanes specifically. There's been a lot of interaction between the two sides, and we've been focused on Zekkas and Zothvi for the entire laning phase, pretty much, because they've been trading. But the bot side as well, Jessica and Scamber, they have been putting down pressure. They are getting the typical Caitlyn lead that you want to see in lane. BF Sword already picked up. This doesn't really get much easier for Bao. At level 6, there's some chance of a turnaround. But realistically, I think for VKS, the way the bot lane's supposed to work is you chip them down. If there's a chance for a kill, you take it. But realistically, they're trying to take that tower down as fast as you can. I think they already have 2 plates down. The sooner you can unlock Cheskla, the more plates you can potentially get and snowball the rest of your team.
It's very funny that we're considering a dive as Gnar turns Mega, but possible it technically is. In we go, and at least in response to the dragon, Zothvi will pick up the kill, and it is important that it is Zothvi that gets it.
Yes, it costs a lot of resources for Fluxu. You could look at this and say that, oh, Fluxu, they're wasting a lot of resources. They're going to fall behind as a team. Yes, but like you said, the call is good. Desamas, though, wants to turn this around.
Zothvi cannot lose this. He literally has to win, and he loses no matter what. Like you say, no choice in that. Desamas answering is... it's bad, is the word I'm going to go with. I might even use very bad.
One might even say terrible. Or would that be too far, do you?
I think that's a bit dramatic for me, but I'm happy if you want to take it.
To me, nature's just healing. You're an Olaf up there. He had to burn Ragnarok earlier, so he didn't have the ability to get out. I think great call from Desamas to really punish that. And unfortunately for Zothvi, I hesitate to say that he made a mistake sticking around, but it certainly didn't end well for him. Thankfully, it's not going to affect his lane very much. He's still going to be able to even that out, and it's going to be okay. The dive here, though, for Zekis, I think Zekis was confident because he was going Mega. He thought he'd be able to do it, but having Cody show up was a bit of a surprise. And the funny part to me was that the pings were actually coming down from Miria. Like, Miria was also roaming up. They knew Cody had first move advantage, but Zekis was like, oh, I'm going Mega. I think I'll be fine. AP Maokai more than enough to do that, and you could see Desamas sprinting up and Zothvi sticking around. Okay, you know what? On review of that replay, I will say Zothvi made a mistake. Like, you knew that people were moving. Desamas had the time to start moving up from how long that dive took. Zothvi just needed to back off. It doesn't hurt Zothvi in the lane, though.
Yeah, in my own games, my duo, who is a top laner, has recently become very attached to the phrase, these are my biblical levels of greed, when he goes for a turret play. And I saw that, and I saw my duo. Him going for the extra tower plate, I went, yes, this is what the Bible spoke of. I don't know. But if the Bible were to speak of a level of greed, it would be Zothvi going for that extra plate.
I mean, to be fair, it's biblical. I'd call it New Testament. It's not quite, smiting lightning, brimstone, fire sort of deal.
Very true. Very true.
Bao gets out
by
again?
the way, guys, this is what happens when you put two people who actually have had religious upbringings on the cast. We start talking about obscure Bible references because, brother, when I tell you that I have gotten into conversations with people that were not raised in a Christian household and start going like, oh yeah, you remember when Jesus just like told a fig tree to die? And they go, no. Nobody remembers that. The level of cognitive dissonance I suffer is massive.
We need to get two of us plus 4i4. 4i4 is the other one who we go
he also has Christian guilt. That's nice. That's
yeah. Guilt's a little bit strong. I'm still Christian. I'm still actively.
No. It's like a term
at this point.
He
is. Yeah. Zothvi getting run down. The double ghost as well. This is not the situation, by the way, you wanted to see. We were, to go back to the game, just talking about how Zothvi didn't lose out dying earlier, but he is still losing out to Zeka straight up right now. And I feel like it's just coming down to comfort with the champion. For an Olaf at that point, like losing the ghost to run away means that you don't have it to pressure later. And the summoners are huge. The extra summoner for Zekas means that Zothvi should not have kill threat until his summoners are back up.
It's a really unfortunate position, of course, to be in for Zothvi, but I'm thinking of the rest of Fluxu here. It's worse for them. If Zothvi doesn't have pressure, the rest of Fluxu doesn't really either. Bao is going to be strong eventually, but Bao is not ever going to be strong in a vacuum. He's always going to rely on the rest of his team to set him up, as AD carries tend to, but especially as Lucian needs.
Okay, a 3-man push on that top side with Peach in the wings. Do they know Desamas is there? No, now.
Yeah, after the root, Peach finds that out. Desamas actually going to get caught in his own jungle, but will he fall?
Might be
Battle's
fine.
Flash, he finally will. That is the first kill on the board for Fluxu, and with Miru on the flank, Cody's actually found him. Will this be a series of catches by Fluxu? It looks like it will. The ult expires. Miru is unable to get out, and a flash over the wall, and a jump to get away. Looks like it'll be just enough. But Miru, that was more of a miracle than anything.
And you know what? If you're VKS, you take it. What's it saying? God helps those who help themselves? Because I think VKS helped themselves out a lot in that scenario. Really strong nerfs from them. Yes, they lose to Samus, but let's look at what they did get. They get first pick on that bot side. They get it onto Jessica, and we're already saying you're trying to unlock the Caitlyn as fast as you can. Sub 12 minutes. First turret goes down. Most of the gold on Jessica. 1.1 thousand gold lead. And Jessica gets back to base early enough to dissuade the rest of that dive from Fluxu. The miracle happens in that Miru doesn't go down, and so VKS are actually in a very strong position right now. Jessica being rotated into the mid lane, going to be sieging up this mid lane turret, and most importantly, Jessica, the strongest member on VKS, will also now be able to reinforce on either Dragon or Herald when the teams decide to fight for them.
And with the Infernal Drake being our second, that is a very tempting proposition for both teams. The position of VKS very strong, and both teams are teetering on the points of their own character development, shall we say. Given that we were going into this game going, what if Fluxu learned? How have VKS adapted? I am seeing both of these teams with a very good chance of executing on their own what we were hoping for out of them. VKS have really abused this Caitlyn to their advantage. And Fluxu, while they have this disengaged composition, while they've made it work in the pick that we saw so far, the nearly 2 picks that we saw so far, are just on the border of actually pulling it off successfully around a critical team fight.
Yeah, I feel like you're a kinder man than me. Because right now, I'm enjoying what I'm seeing from VKS. I think they've bounced back phenomenally well from game 1. I'm not sold on them here in game, or I'm not sold, pardon me, on Fluxu here in game 3. Zothby, I think, actually just teleported back to lane, so he won't be able to join the team. So Fluxu was matching so well and doing so much work on the bot side, and then now that gets tossed out the window. Actually, we're going to see a counter teleport from Cody into the top side.
I mean, this is... I was going to say not ideal. I might be tempted to go with bad. It's not just giving up the dragon, which in itself is fine. It is investing more resources into Zothvi where it becomes questionable, because Zothvi, to be honest, has already a little teensy bit with no flame attached to it. He's a little bit trolled this game. And investing more into him and then having that not work out is what makes it go from not ideal to pretty bad.
I love how you're picking your words so carefully, Dion. I'm just like, no, it's bad. Like, I just...
Yeah.
I mean, I get what Flux is doing. I do agree. If the mountain won't come to... Muhammad won't come to the mountain will go to Muhammad. You know, like, in this case, it's like, if Zothby's not going to move to the team, well, then we have no choice but to teleport and try and get Zothby ahead. So I like the idea from Cody. You were never going to win the dragon fight the moment Zothby kind of spent his teleport early. But the problem is, I'm just not sold that Zothby's the right carry for the team. And I guess you're doubling down because you need him compositionally. Without Zothby, it gets really, really hard. But we'll see if this is hurting the rest of the team, because that teleport from Cody means that he wasn't farming in a lane. He wasn't getting himself ahead. He was helping out top, and it didn't convert. Zekas burnt a flash to get out, but he did survive. Mega now will be shrinking soon enough, but not quickly enough for Fluxu to get the Herald. If Fluxu wants, they could try and look for a team fight on the back end of it.
This is the other thing that Cody teleporting means, is that he doesn't have it now. Sure. And Rift Herald contest, never really a possibility. Top lane tower is going to eat a wave. Zekas will be here to collect the majority of it. And without top lane tower falling, we're still in the early stages of this game. The gold lead has not moved significantly since the very beginning of it, but I would say VKS still maintain a firm lead in the game with the amount of objectives they've been able to collect so far. They have once again returned to the Rift Herald despite losing the Void Groves, despite that return to form, if someone could call it that, for Fluxu in the early stages of this game. And now, Fluxu, still finding themselves at a disadvantage, have got to manufacture a way back. And if there's one thing that we learned about Fluxu in Game 2, it's that they're terrible at manufacturing.
True. They do tend to sit back at odd times. Now, yeah, I'm very glad you didn't kind of mention the shrinking gold lead, because the gold lead has shrunk somewhat, and specifically in the bot lane where Bao is catching up. But it's temporary, because with Herald in pocket, VKS should be able to get more turrets down very, very quickly, and they have been chipping away at this mid and upper turret. So right now, VKS's gold lead is fake. If you fought them, sure, it's accurate. But if you're not fighting them and you're just maintaining your lanes as we're seeing right now, it's going to very quickly blow up. Culling being used by Bao early means that there's no more wave clear available.
Momochi with a courteous tank for Bao, giving his AD carry maximum impact for later on in the game. But Peach, unfortunately, not very tanky and now not very ulti. Has to flash away from the engage. No ability to turn this around, as Rift Herald's going to be crashed right into the mid lane, and VKS should be walking away from this with at least a tower in their pocket. They fish for a little bit more, but Bao and Cody, both playing respectively, are actually pushing forwards themselves. Cody maybe having found a pick. Zekas gonna get the heal burned for him and ultimately walk away, even going mega as he does it. But that was a near call.
And this to me is why when we look at Fluxu, I don't care how you draft for another player to be the big carrier of the team. I'm always gonna have one eye on Cody to be the big playmaker, because if Cody doesn't find that charm, I think VKS continue to set up the siege in the mid lane. They continue to pressure in while Zothwi is pushing out the top side. But because they almost threaten onto Zekas, the team has to disengage. And what I love from Cody there was he didn't give up after he got that first charm onto Zekas. He keeps going. Not so much to secure the kill. Like, if you can get it, great. But more importantly, just to stop the backs and slow down VKS a little bit. We get to see this play happening. I do want to highlight while all this is happening, Zothwi is just split pushing top, which we've seen multiple times throughout this game. Just throughout the series, pardon me, which seems to be the MO for Zothwi right now. Like you said, playing a bit selfishly. I don't hate it when he's got this champion, but look at the gold differential, Dia. For all that Zothwi is getting resources funneled into him, for all that he sits in his lane and doesn't join his team, he's still down 100 gold.
It's like just the tiniest bit of trolling. And you know what? It's okay. Players can have bad days. They can have bad weeks even. Some players have bad seasons. And yet more have bad years. But even as I extend this sentence, simply because more periods of time keep occurring to me, Fluxu are still running out of it in this game. Around the third dragon, soul point for VKS. Zothwi has joined the rest of the team. And even so, Fluxu do not appear to have a winning team fight going for them. Miru going to quickly back away before most helping Peach, and might actually be able to kill him with the help of Zekas, who has joined in on the flank. Desames rockets forward, but Zekas will be the one to finish the kill with the extra proc of Hyper, and VKS, now with a pick in their pocket, get to back away to this dragon and send somebody back to answer Cody's sidewave.
And things are going from bad to worse here. We talked about the range advantage VKS has in all of these situations, as well as the potential engage. So Fluxu end up being in a very awkward spot, where on one hand, we don't win the poke war, on the other hand, we don't have good engage. And this is where it was supposed to be. Peach looks for a flank, get the out off to allow Zothwi to get in there. But we're not seeing that. And this time, it's not that Zothwi isn't with the team. Cody's not with the team, and more importantly, they just eat too much poke in advance. Dark Knight. Okay, that counts funny. We get the replay first, and really well played from VKS. They're using the clone to stop part of the Maokai ultimate so that there's no engage potential. And then it's just damage after damage after damage onto Fluxu for daring to step up, for even daring to think about engaging and not finding the perfect engage. And you can see the amount of burst damage that just comes through. If the ace in the hole was up and available for Jeskla, things could have been even worse there. Dark Knight, I believe this is promising. Okay, so yeah, chat, there's somebody who's joking a little bit about how Fluxu with the real top laner would be scary. I believe that's Paquentonio who was saying that. Yeah, and this is Dark Knight's response. For those of you who don't know, Fluxu used to have a top laner called Curdy, who they replaced with Zothwi, and most of us thought, oh, that looks like a bit of a side grade. To be fair, I don't know if Curdy would do better.
I don't know
on
if
the
Curdy
Olaf
would do better either.
But at the same time,
I remain unsold.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, there's still a chance. Like, the game's not over yet, right? There's always a world in which Zothwi comes back with a hero play. We've seen bigger throws or bigger comebacks in CBLOL. Just, was it 2 years ago? The Red came back from a 14k gold deficit or something like that, and then came back multiple times in the same split from having an open nexus. So it ain't over till it's over. It just kind of looks that way.
And for Peach, it certainly feels that way. Not having really any presence to speak of in mid lane. He can't engage, he just has to eat a few autos, and Cody may have to eat a little bit more than that. Dasamis tanks the charm for now, but Cody is not the target. Top lane tower will be the focus for VKS. And a nice pan over from our observers highlights that we've got Baron to think about as well, with almost... I wanted to look across the map and double check. Never mind. I thought bot lane tower was going to fall. I was going to say with almost all outer towers down, that Baron becomes realistic for both teams. But with all outer towers down for Fluxu and a couple standing for VKS, it's realistic for VKS.
Okay, yeah, VKS, if they find a pick here, especially on the Peach or in Bao, I think they go for it. Jessica taking a bit of a back massage. That's dangerous when the whole culling comes out and you do like 10% of the support and the AD carries health bar. That's not okay.
He didn't hit most of it, right?
True. But I don't think he can hit most of it, is the problem, right? With the 90 caliber net, it's so easy to just reposition out of the line of fire, and Scamber's got a barrier. But that becomes a problem, because that was their long-range poke. Once culling is down, VKS aren't scared of a siege or poke war at that point. They're more than happy to set up the trap line, walk at you, and see how you respond. And your response as Fluxu right now is you just walk away, or you brute force a fight. And I'm looking at Zothby's items: Stripe Breaker, Ninja Tabbies, or plated steel caps, pardon me. Those aren't items that will get you into the backline if you have to run through from the front. Like, you got to find some sort of flank. He's got the flash, he's got the ghost, but watch his positioning for Zothby. He never has the position to look for backline access.
Oh my god, Momochi, where does his health go?
Alive?
Miru, I could ask the same question, and a flash over from Bao will find the answer. He heads to 0 as Cody teleports in. Fluxu have found the singular pick. What else can they do with it? Mid laner down does not automatically open up Baron, and Cody fishes for something else but does not find it. Fluxu get their pick. They get their gold. It's a cash-in, but it costs Bao his flash, and they don't get anything else for it.
Scamber having to blow his flash as well to make sure he didn't get picked by Cody. You know what, for Fluxu, it is a narrow win, a small win, but if you have Fluxu, you take that. And apparently if you have Rose, you take that too, because Rose has decided to support Fluxu on this. I can't believe Momochi lived. And I guess it's that reactive drafting you were talking about, picking picks that can survive being engaged upon. I think that is massive, and Momochi baiting flawlessly to extend this game.
Let's hope he can do it again, as right now, at the very least, he is certainly baiting perfectly. Sitting at just above 200 HP, he's given Peach the perfect opportunity to go in, but VKS don't seem to suffer too much at their hands. Dasam is still holding on to most of his HP, and for all that Fluxu were able to pull off a counter engage, they weren't able to get anything for it. With 40 seconds left on this dragon, Fluxu will not have a lot of tools. They have... no flash on Bao. They've got flash for Cody. They've got nothing for Momochi. Realistically, this fight comes down to Zothby and Cody pulling a rabbit out of a hat.
Now, to be fair, I like...
or turning water into wine, to continue with the rest of our biblical material.
Why not walk on water? Because the river fight's coming up in 15 seconds.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Miru. Ooh, that's a substantial amount of damage. Yeah, these fights are getting very volatile, especially once our mid laners get involved. Miru and Cody are chunking half health on repeat right now. But the point I wanted to make, actually, before the fight breaks out, is I'm liking where Fluxu's at right now. We are getting quite a bit more tankiness, actually, with the experimental hexplate coming through from Zothby. It's allowing him to actually now run in the front, and with the ultimate popped, with Ragnar popped, he's going to move a lot quicker as well. So there is a world in which Fluxu right now could try and turn things around. Teleport being used by Zothby, they're going to try and kick in the front door as Peach is looking for sideways access.
Does have ult available, and out comes the twisted advance. Peach going to go into the pit as well, and Fluxu attempts to burn down this dragon and get away for free. That they will narrowly do. But I like the move from Fluxu, and I am going to compliment VKS at the same time for not rising to this. While it was a fight that they might win, it wasn't a sure thing. And giving away this dragon is fine.
And giving kills over and letting Fluxu ban the game would not have been okay. Now, it is worth noting, though, that these are Cloud Drakes, which get a little bit scary when you see an Olaf start to stack them.
Sure.
Especially if they can get 4 and the soul, that'd be absolutely insane. But yeah, that'd be another 15-20 minutes on this timer right now. So, it'll be a while before that becomes a huge threat. And VKS, I think, also recognized the same things I did, which was that Fluxu right now are in a bit of a power spike. This is not the fight you want. Let Jessica complete, third, fourth item first, and then maybe we can feel a lot more comfortable about dealing with this Olaf, who's going to be looking for backline access. Baron now the focal point for both of these teams. It's the last remaining major neutral objective. VK is getting in there, but Fluxu, this time they're not sitting back. They're getting plenty of vision down. They want to make sure that they are able to contest this and potentially make this a turning point in the game for themselves.
Still gold leads across the board for the members of VKS, but as you mentioned, they are ever shrinking and they are in a way fake. It takes a moment for Fluxu to not even win a fight, just win themselves a bit of tempo on this map, and we'll very quickly see some towers fall and this gold lead be completely equalized. VKS have done well to hold onto it all game, but they have to convert around some of these dragons, and importantly, that they have to be, I want to say they have to be there first, but it doesn't seem like just that. They have to control so much more around the objectives via vision, like we talked about in game 1, in order to take this range and turn it into a win.
Ooh. Miru spotted looking for the flank right now, gets turned around on. Hassie's between roads to escape, but Peach wants to follow up.
It was another good example of not quite having control of the vision. Well, Peach does go for it. Ultimately, he is going to get trapped and shut down, giving an unnecessary victory to VKS. And actually, Zekus decides to serve up a little bit more. That is a big Gnar and stun underneath the tower. And Cody, who managed to survive his own fight in the bot lane, goes, "Where did my team go?"
Yeah, and look, I was chuckling when Peach went in. That was a gross overextension. He was definitely going to die, and it might have cost him the Baron. But watching Zekus decide to double down and go deep into the inner turret, that guarantees the Baron at this point. There's no smite still available. Fluxu can't even look to try and find some kills on the back end of it. So, Dia, that is what I think has broken the equilibrium. Fluxu was holding on so incredibly well. But one mistake from from Peach specifically is going to cost his team massively. And now we're talking about inner turrets prior. Well, 3 of them are standing up for the side of Fluxu, but with a baroned up Caitlyn, this is going to be an issue. Miru going in. I feel like Miru's been struggling a little bit on the Aurora. He's trying to force the plays. He doesn't need to. But what he did do was successfully bait out Peach. And right here, as Fluxu, you've got to know in the back of your mind, we're on a timer. You see the pings coming down too. So they had vision of the rotations, but they overstayed a little bit. And right here, Zekus, my man, that call is what makes the difference between somebody who knows how to actually play Gnar and somebody who's just playing it for the lane. And Zekus going in with the Mega Gnar, knowing that I just need some sort of CC and my team can finish up the job.
I mean, he's got really good reaction speed on that as well, because it looked like it was in range of the stun, in which case he could have waited a second more, but he can hold it as Miru goes for the play. Might pick up Bao, but it could have gone either way, and both walk out. Oh, little too low. That was a rough way for Bao to fall, and that means numbers advantage for VKS. Numbers advantage plus Baron. We're probably losing an inhib tower.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Zothvi is pushing topside, will find himself an inner turret in the top lane, but Zothvi, it's time to rejoin the team. You're at level 17. Your team needs help. Now, what can he do? He has to teleport, or he doesn't teleport, pardon me. He recalls into base, so he has to run in from the front, and unfortunately, by the time he gets there, the inhibitor's down. So an inner for an inhibitor, not an ideal trade. I mean, to be fair, it could have been worse, but it also could have been better.
Could have been worse.
Yeah, if he doesn't get the inner turret, it's worse.
Yeah, I'm just, I'm just mulling over it. I'm just going over exactly how I want to pick up. Do I want to pick up on the it could have been worse? Do I want to pick up on the it could have been better? Or do I just want to harass you for your word choice? And I ended up going with option number 3. We'll see what VKS choose to go with, as right now they've got a lot of options. They've got a lot of advantages, and it seems to be that Fluxu want to play with them. That is a Mega Gnar in the front line, difficult to chew through. And remember, VKS have incredible power. Miru is one-shotting people, and if he doesn't, well, Jeskla certainly will. Out comes the ult from Zothvi, a little late and a little too little at this point in the game. A minute on his death timer is surely enough for VKS to walk into the base, take down Bao, and put this game to rest once and for all. VKS play patient. They play at the edge of their ranges, and a frustrated Fluxu is ultimately the team that we see falling. No chance to respond, no way to do it when VKS outrange and outplay you 2 games in a row.
And you know what, Dia? Here we see the difference between players and casters, because you decided to pick up on my words and harass me a little bit, and we are fine. You survived. Pete decides to go and harass VKS a little bit, and they just bit off his entire arm. The entire team collapsing after what looked like a non-committal poke to come through from Peach. He just used the ultimate. He just wanted to see if there was an angle. There was none. VKS with an amazing bounce back from what looked like a rough game one. Now, I won't say, Dia, that VKS are looking firmly like an unbeatable top 3 team. They did show that they still can bleed, and they do bleed red for all their royal purple. But they do secure the win, and that will maintain their spot for now.
Yes, it is, as we mentioned at the start of the broadcast, still early in the season, but this is a good news story for VKS, especially given the adaptability that they demonstrated through this game, especially when it came to the draft. But when it came to Game 3, I think the patience a lot as well. Looking at the way that this affects them now, VivoCade, of course, with their additional game win, get to move up. However, with the majority of our teams with all of our teams playing this super weekend, this does have the opportunity to change. Los Grandes and Loud certainly going to be contesting for that spot, and we'll see what we end up with at the halfway point in the season. I got a lot of thoughts on how VivoCade ended this game, on what Fluxu can take away, but I want to hear yours on where we're at in this season right now, RMC.
Sure, and I'll start with the standings as well, because I think this game had impact on the next series as well. If VKS was to fall here, then Loud would have a much more comfortable position to play from, because win or lose, they're still in competition for that top 3 spot. But now with VivoCade winning this, Loud are in another sort of situation where they've got to win. They are to remain competitive. And why that matters is because later on in the Super Week on Sunday, Loud and Cade will face off. So, okay, these standings keep shifting. No, Cade is 3-0. Why did we drop to 2-1? But yeah, it will put. Okay, yes. Rose is showing us what could have happened. Yeah, so if that's the case, and Loud wins their game, then the Sunday game's a lot less important. But now, because of the fact that Cade has won, pressure's on Loud to win up against Furia. And as much as Furia is an O2 position, a shocking position, we know that Furia has the ability to just pop off at any given time. So Loud has a bit more pressure on them coming up in their later series.
We know that so much, by the way, that I finally got in CBLOL Fantasy, and I got 2 Furia players on my roster, because if there's one thing that Dia loves, it's a deal. And Furia players, I'm pretty sure, are a deal right now. They should be coming back, and fortunately, they may be coming back in the upcoming series. We have Furia going up against Loud. Right now, for all intents and purposes. Not actually right now, but in the next couple of minutes. That'll be the series that comes up after this. I do really quickly want to say that this was a close series. Despite the fact that VKS won, despite how, I think, convincing it looked in Game 3 with the way that it ended, Fluxu got caught by a little bit of impatience, specifically out of Peach. And as much as I'm going to flame accidentally, but not actually, Zothby for his performance in this game, ultimately was Peach making a lot of the game-losing or objective-losing mistakes. And that comes down to experience and, like I said, impatience. I think at some point he just went, it is frustrating not to be able to engage. It is frustrating not to be able to do anything. I am Maokai. Let me press my buttons. And that was where VKS were able to strike. Where VKS might encounter more trouble is against teams that have a little bit more discipline in this area, specifically when their engagers have a little bit more discipline. Their frontliners, like Zothby and like Peach, there are teams that are going to challenge that. And I hate for this to come across as flame. I love all of our players, and I, at the same time, want to be fair to them by being critical of the areas in which they must improve.
Fair enough, and I think it's fair criticism, and I'm sure the team will review that as well, because weirdly enough, that's not normal for Peach right now. Peach has been a big reason why this team has been finding so much success, and I think today the Game 3 performance specifically is very uncharacteristic of what we've come to see from him. Fluxu, I believe they'll bounce back, and this kind of just cements their status as the dark horse team. They are not a top 3 team, they're not necessarily even a top 4 team, but they're always threatening and nipping at the heels of those teams, and if ever you let up, they will take you down, as we saw in the first game against VivoCade Stars. For VKS, though, Dia, my takeaway, and which makes me very happy, is that it's not a dishonest Mirio team. Up to this week, it's been Samus and Miru largely kind of setting the pace for the team. But in this series, I think we saw Miru struggle quite a few times, make overly aggressive plays. Now in game 3, it felt like he was trying to make a highlight reel. If some of those flanks had worked, that goes on a highlight reel. If it doesn't work, it could have cost him the game. He landed somewhere in the middle where like it didn't work, but he didn't get punished for it. So kind of a nothing burger that slowed down the pace of his team a little bit at times, but not critical. Samus game 1 was simply not it. Even in game 2, I don't think he was the main carry of the team, the main reason why they won. So to me, it was more about the side lanes and watching Zekis get his moment in the sun, winning out against Zothby, dominating in game 3 as well. I think great for him. Again, I consider him a rookie to tier 1 because I think his time in Renska didn't really count when they were splitting time very oddly. Jeskla, I think, was the guy who really impressed me this series. Like, win or lose, Jeskla was always putting up numbers. And we said this before, a lot of times players like this, they don't get their moment in the sun because they're not flashy. And in Brazil, we're used to marksmen like flashing forward, making insane plays, 1v5, stepping up, starting a fight, being the primary initiator for your team. That's not what Jeskala's doing. He's playing the way of Morteus. If you look at his numbers are insane. And I have a feeling he won't get voted MVP for this series by the Portuguese broadcast. But I want to say right here, as far as I'm concerned, I think he was the MVP of the series.
Yeah, I can definitely get behind that because, as you said, this was a bit of a different look for VKS. We didn't really see Samus and Miru teaming up in exactly the same way as we have been used to. I will say, I think Miru was suffering from that a little bit in game number 3. You were noting his Aurora play, and he definitely wanted to get things going. And in a weird way he did, but it was a bit funky. So we'll see what the future VKS looks like. Maybe they're practicing something a little bit different, and I can say the same for Fluxen. Maybe they're practicing something a little bit different. That is always a possibility, especially in the regular season of CBLOL, especially in these best of 3s. However, it is a super weekend, and we have other games to get to. Or I should say, the CBLOL broadcast has other games to get to. So, RMC and I will be stepping away for the rest of the night, because for me it is late, and for RMC, I just decided I made that decision for you. I'm really sorry. I really love you.
I can't do this alone,
you.
So
I know that you desperately want to cast CBLOL alone, but I said enough RMC. You're not allowed. You must take care of yourself. So thank you to all of you. A special thank you, by the way, to Garen Senior, who managed to not just resubscribe but also to gift a subscription to a fellow viewer of the CBLOL English broadcast. We appreciate all of you, and thank you to those of you who are able to take a little bit of time and support us. Garen Senior, you've been supporting us for 18 months, and we really appreciate it as we are a volunteer broadcast. Sorry, Rose. I see you, and thank you.
Rose just lives on the internet, so Rose is always available. It's not their problem.
Everybody also thank you to Rose for making this broadcast
thank
possible,
you, Rose.
and for being a very active producer. I almost never use that little graphic to talk, but I really appreciate it because Rose, you're very funny. All right, we are going to raid CBLOL English. So we are going to raid CBLOL. We are CBLOL English. We're going to raid the CBLOL in a few minutes. Everybody just speak in English in their chat. They're going to hate it maybe a little bit, but they love us, so they're going to have to deal, all right? We love you. Bye-bye.